Chapter 101. The Golden Crocodile drove the carriage and entered Douluo City. The Platinum Bishop, Osford, personally welcomed them, causing Lu Yuan and the others to be the center of attention. Even though they were separated by the carriage, Lu Yuan could still feel the constant gazes of people. This caused Lu Yuan to frown involuntarily. In his opinion, it was best to keep a low profile. This Osford really knew how to find trouble. Hulina had also woken up long ago, but she was still lying in Lu Yuan's arms. "Junior brother, have we arrived at Douluo City?" Hulina blinked her beautiful big eyes. Lu Yuan nodded and said, "We've arrived, but we've encountered some trouble." "What trouble?" Hulina asked curiously. "The Platinum Bishop of Douluo Temple, Osford, has organized such a grand welcoming ceremony. With so many people watching outside, our identities might be exposed." Lu Yuan said. "So it's this. There's no need to worry." Hulina's beautiful eyes moved. "Oh, could it be that senior sister has a way?" Lu Yuan asked. Hulina revealed a trace of a smile. The necklace in her arms shone with a white light, and 2 items appeared in her hands. "Junior brother, look, what are these?" Hulina waved the items in her hands with an excited smile on her face. "Masks. Senior sister, you still have these things?" Lu Yuan's eyes were sharp. With a glance, he saw 2 masks. "I saw them when I was strolling around Martial Spirit City. I felt that they were very exquisite, so I bought them. I didn't expect that they would come in handy today." Hulina smiled sweetly. "Senior sister, you've helped a lot. With this mask, my identity won't be exposed." Lu Yuan said with a smile. "I've helped so much. Is there any reward?" Hulina said coquettishly. "Then what reward do you want?" Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Yes." Hulina pointed at her red lips. Lu Yuan smiled faintly, leaned over, and kissed Hulina's red lips. A moment later, Lu Yuan raised his head and said with a smile, "Is this good enough?" Hulina blinked her beautiful eyes and said in a gentle voice, "It's not enough." Lu Yuan shook his head helplessly and leaned over again. Woo! This time, it lasted for a long time. Alas! Hearing the commotion in the carriage, Golden Crocodile sighed and cursed in his heart. "This damned little vixen only knows how to seduce Obuchi. Xiao Shui, your future husband is about to be seduced away. Grandpa Golden Crocodile has let you down." The golden alligator Douluo sighed as he thought about it. Martial Spirit Temple. Osford had a respectful expression on his face. He wasn't just respectful to Hulina and Lu Yuan, the 2 disciples of the Pope. He was even more respectful to the Golden Crocodile. A rank 98 pinnacle Douluo was no different from a legend in the Xianra Empire. This was because the strongest consecrator in the Xianra Empire's imperial family was only rank 96. He was the current patriarch of the Douluo Empire's imperial family. The Xianra Empire might be stronger than the Heaven Do Empire in terms of military strength, but it was inferior to the Heaven Do Empire in terms of elite soul masters. Of course, Osford was so respectful to the Golden Crocodile not only because of his own strength, but also because of Golden Crocodile's identity as the second consecrator of the Consecrated Hall. Of course, Osford didn't dare to neglect Lu Yuan and Hulina. After all, even though he was a Platinum Bishop, Hulina and Lu Yuan were the Pope's disciples. They might be the new Holy Son or Holy Lady in the future. Osford was old and experienced, so he naturally wouldn't neglect them. There were a total of 4 Platinum Bishops in the Martial Spirit Palace. Osford and Sakas were stationed in the Xianra Empire's Douluo City and the Heaven Do Empire's Heaven Do City, respectively. The 4 Platinum Bishops were all rank 89. Their status in the Martial Spirit Palace was only second to the Pope and the various elders. Their statuses were relatively high. However, the 4 Platinum Bishops were relatively old, and it was basically impossible for them to break through to become titled Douluo. If a person's strength couldn't increase, he or she would look for other alternatives. People like Sakas and Osford chose power. If the Golden Crocodile was displeased, or if Lu Yuan and Hulina expressed their displeasure in front of Bibidon, Osford might lose his current position as a Platinum Bishop. This was unacceptable to Osford, whose heart had been corrupted by power. Therefore, Osford didn't give Lu Yuan and the others any face. Instead, he went straight to the martial spirit palace. He didn't have any objections and didn't dare to have any objections. Wearing a mask, Lu Yuan walked into the martial spirit temple under the watchful eyes of many people in the temple. After walking into the martial spirit palace, Lu Yuan ignored Osford's hospitality and went straight to the point. Bishop Osford, how's the situation in Sunyuan City now? Lu Yuan and the others spent more than half a month rushing from Nodding City to Douluo City. The news they received was from half a month ago and was no longer accurate. Osford was the highest leader of the martial spirit palace in Douluo City, so he should be more clear about the situation in Sunyuan City. Young Master Yuan, according to the news from the Sacred Temple spies, various powers have gathered in Sunyuan City, and the situation is very tense. Not only are there people from the Xianra Empire's royal family, but there are also people from the Netherworld Duke's Zhu family. Other than that, there are also the Su family, the Zither sect, and the Windsword sect, Osford said. Oh. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, have the various powers discussed the time to enter? The quota to enter? I think it's time for the various powers to compete with each other. Yes. Osford said. Originally, the Douluo imperial family has urged me several times to discuss the time and quota, but since the second Reverend and young Master Yuan haven't arrived, this old man didn't dare to make a decision. You've done well, Golden Crocodile said indifferently. Many thanks for the second Reverend's praise. This is what this subordinate should do, Osford said. Lu Yuan pondered for a moment and said, since that's the case, then discuss with the Douluo imperial family. The opening time will be set 3 days later, and no more than 2 people from each power can enter. Osford's gaze shifted to the Golden Crocodile. The Golden Crocodile frowned and said, let's do as Obuchi says. Okay, this subordinate will immediately send someone to contact the Douluo imperial family. Osford quickly said. Lu Yuan nodded and cast a glance at the Golden Crocodile. The Golden Crocodile understood and said, since this matter has been settled, then it's settled. There's no need for your welcoming ceremony. We don't like crowds. Send someone to lead us to rest. We've been on the road for days, and we're a little tired. Yes, Osford said. Douluo Martial Spirit Temple, in a room. Lu Yuan's hands were behind his back as he looked into the distance. The mask on his face had already been removed, revealing an immortal-like face that emitted a cold aura. Chapter 102. Junior Brother. Hulina hugged Lu Yuan from behind and leaned her charming face against Lu Yuan's back. Although Lu Yuan was only 9 years old, his height had already caught up with Hulina's and was even slightly taller. When the two stood together, they were quite compatible. What are you thinking about? Hulina asked softly. Lu Yuan's palm stroked Hulina's white hands that were hugging his waist and said softly, nothing. I'm just thinking about the trip to the ruins in 3 days. Oh, Hulina responded. Lu Yuan pulled away Hulina's jade hands that were hugging him, turned around, and pulled Hulina into his embrace. He said, senior sister, we'll explore the ruins in 3 days. No one knows what will happen, and no one knows what dangers there will be inside. It's best that you stay by my side at all times and don't leave. Junior brother, are you looking down on your senior sister? I'm also very powerful. Hulina waved her pink fists and said in a show of force. Yes, yes, yes. Senior sister, you're the most powerful. Pinching Hulina's jade nose, Lu Yuan said, the ruins in 3 days won't be simple. Moreover, there are all kinds of big powers. Senior sister, although you and I are outstanding among our peers, we're still young. For those 18 or 19-year-old soul masters, the flaw in our age may turn into a disadvantage in our soul power. Hulina nodded lightly. However, as long as we cooperate with each other, no matter how difficult the opponents are, they won't be able to do anything to us. Senior sister, your charm ability can attack the spiritual aspect, and my golden dragon's body is invincible. I don't think there will be a better combination than us. Therefore, we must take care of each other, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hulina nodded her small head lightly. She hugged Lu Yuan's waist tightly with both hands and snuggled into Lu Yuan's embrace. Lu Yuan stroked Hulina's hair with a serious and determined expression. No matter what they encountered in the ruins of the Goddess of Life 3 days later, he would do his best to protect Hulina. It had nothing to do with anything else because Hulina was his woman, that was all. Sinuous City. The sun was shining brightly, but the small sinuous city was filled with representatives of various major forces. Each force had 1 or 2 young people with them. They should be the top geniuses of their respective forces or sections. Lu Yuan was wearing a mask. Beside him was Hulina, who was also wearing a mask. Hulina, who was only 14 years old, was extremely beautiful. Although she was wearing a mask, her figure was already quite attractive. Not far away, there were always hot gazes from young men. Feeling those hot gazes, Lu Yuan frowned slightly. He took a step forward, and the aura of the golden dragon emerged from his body, fiercely oppressing those young men. Although Lu Yuan was only a rank 28 soul grandmaster, with the support of his bloodline and soul power, he was not inferior to a soul ancestor. The strongest of those young men was only an elementary soul elder. Suppressed by Lu Yuan's aura, they all resentfully withdrew their gazes. Hulina looked at Lu Yuan's jealous expression and couldn't help but laugh. Still laughing? What's so funny? Lu Yuan rolled his eyes. Haha, junior brother, you're actually jealous. This is the first time senior sister has seen you jealous. Hulina giggled. Lu Yuan glanced at her, but didn't say anything. Seeing Lu Yuan silent, Hulina laughed even more happily. She leaned over to Lu Yuan's ear and whispered, Junior brother, do you know? Senior sister was so happy just now. Hulina's bright eyes revealed a smile. Lu Yuan still didn't say anything. He only held Hulina's hand tightly. Hulina felt sweet in her heart and let Lu Yuan hold her hand. On one side, Lu Yuan and Hulina were flirting. On the other side, a group of people walked over. The first thing that came into view was a white tiger flag. This was exclusive to the Star Luo imperial family. Just like how the Heaven Do Empire's imperial family used a swan flag, the white tiger flag was undoubtedly synonymous with the Star Luo imperial family. In Sinuous City, where many powers gathered, only the current emperor of the Xianra Empire, the white tiger Dai Tianfeng, dared to walk in so openly. Dai Tianfeng was not only the emperor of the Xianra Empire, but also one of the few titled Douluo in the Xianra Empire. His title was White Tiger. He was a rank 94 title Douluo. The strongest person in the Xianra Empire was naturally the previous White Tiger Douluo. He was also the Star Luo Emperor's father, Dai Tianlin. He was a rank 96 transcendent Douluo and also the foundation of the Star Luo imperial family. Dai Tianfeng, Lu Yuan said softly as he looked at Dai Tianfeng, who was wearing a crown and had an iron-blooded aura. This Dai Tianfeng has some tricks up his sleeve. The Golden Crocodile said, the Xianra Empire is much stronger than the Heaven Do Empire. If not for the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect support, the Heaven Do Empire's strength would not be able to contend with the Xianra Empire. For our martial soul palace, the Xianra Empire will be our greatest enemy in the future. The Golden Crocodile's voice was not loud, but it accurately reached Lu Yuan, Hulina, and the others' ears. Furthermore, the Golden Crocodile's soul power field made it impossible for others to hear what Lu Yuan and the others were saying. We'll destroy him sooner or later, Lu Yuan said as he stared at Dai Tianfeng's figure in the distance. The Golden Crocodile nodded in satisfaction as he looked at Lu Yuan's confident expression. Whether it was in terms of talent or intelligence, this disciple of his was far superior to ordinary people. In the future, his achievements would definitely surpass his own. With him assisting Chihiro Snow, it would not be difficult for him to unify the continent in the future. Although the Golden Crocodile was very satisfied with Lu Yuan, he still had to remind Lu Yuan, however, that's in the future. What you need to do now is to work hard and cultivate. Of course, Lu Yuan nodded slightly. Although he was a little arrogant, He was not like Guan Yu of the Three Kingdoms, who looked down on everyone. He understood his own strength, and also understood what he needed to do at this stage. He would not bite off more than he could chew. Dai Tianfeng ascended the stage that had been prepared in advance under the gazes of everyone. Citizens of the Xianra Empire, greetings, everyone. I am Dai Tianfeng. Dai Tianfeng's voice sounded very generous and imposing. As the father of Davis and Dai Mubai, Dai Tianfeng was a rank 94 titled Douluo. He was much more powerful than the Heaven Do Empire's Snowy Night Emperor, whether it was in terms of strength or skill. I believe that everyone is here for the ancient ruins that have appeared in Sunyue City. I will not waste any more words. Here, I will talk about the ancient ruins. After a discussion with Bishop Osford of the Martial Soul Temple, the Wind Sword Sect's Sectmaster, the Netherworld Duke, and the Zither Sect's Sectmaster, I have implemented certain regulations and restrictions on the people that can enter. Each faction can only send 2 Soul Masters, and the Soul Masters that enter must be below the age of 20. In the ruins, the factions are not allowed to kill each other. Each faction. Chapter 103. So much nonsense. Lu Yuan curled his lips impatiently as he looked at Dai Tianfeng, who was speaking with fervor and assurance on the high platform. Dai Tianfeng's speech reminded him of the opening ceremony in his previous life, where the school leaders droned on and on until the end of a long, smelly speech that resembled an old woman's foot-binding cloth. Something about not hurting each other, not taking the initiative to endanger others' lives, not gathering in groups. His words were like farts. Damn it, if you don't fight for the ancient ruins, where will the opportunity fall from the sky? Furthermore, he was certain that the one who took the lead in disrupting Dai Tianfeng's speech was his son, Davis, because the tradition of the Xianra Empire was that brothers should fight to the death and not take the initiative to harm others. It was especially disgusting when it came from Dai Tianfeng's mouth. Lu Yuan curled his lips in disdain as he looked at Davis, who was wearing a gorgeous robe not far from Dai Tianfeng. But why wasn't Dai Mubai here? Could it be that Dai Mubai had already gone to Shrek Academy, so he couldn't come? That was possible. After all, the Xianra Empire had sealed off information. In the Heaven Do Empire, only the upper echelons of the major powers knew about the appearance of the ancient ruins. Dai Mubai was currently drunk in Shrek Academy, so he definitely didn't know about it. As for the group of poor people in Shrek, they only thought about how to earn some extra money every day. How could they be in the mood to know about what was happening in the Xianra Empire? As for why Lu Yuan could recognize that this person was Davis and not Dai Mubai, it was because Davis was taller at least 9 meters. Dai Mubai was 3 years older than Lu Yuan and was 12 years old this year, so he definitely wasn't that tall. Another important reason was that Dai Mubai was born with evil eyes and had double pupils, while Davis only had normal eyes. Lu Yuan's spiritual power was strong, and his ears were sharp. Although he was a little far away, he could still clearly see that Davis's eyes were no different from ordinary people's. Lu Yuan wasn't in the mood to listen to what Dai Tianfeng had to say. He looked around and observed all the soul masters under the age of 20 sent by the major powers. After all, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Suddenly, Lu Yuan's gaze paused. That was the direction of the Zither sect. Lu Yuan couldn't help but exclaim softly. What's wrong, junior brother? Seeing Lu Yuan's surprised expression, Hulina asked. After all, Lu Yuan had always been calm and collected. He always had an indifferent expression on his face. Just now, he was obviously a little surprised. No one knew what he had seen, so Hulina was a little interested. Nothing. I just saw an interesting person. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed. Even Davis hadn't noticed him when he was observing the young soul cultivators from the various factions. This was because Lu Yuan's soul force was relatively low, but his spiritual power was much higher than Davis's and the others. That was why they hadn't noticed him. Just now, when he was in the Zither sect, Lu Yuan had discovered that someone had actually sensed his gaze. One had to know that when Lu Yuan was observing, he had deliberately avoided those high-level adult soul masters. Ordinary young soul masters wouldn't have noticed his gaze. But just now, that person from the Zither sect had not only noticed Lu Yuan's gaze, but had also followed Lu Yuan's spiritual undulations and exchanged glances with Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. He hadn't thought that there would be such a person among the younger generation of the Xianra Empire. It had to be known that of all the young soul masters present, the only one who could use their gaze and spiritual undulations to smoothly discover Lu Yuan under his gaze was Hulina. According to Lu Yuan's estimations, the only one who could do so was to smoothly discover Lu Yuan. He hadn't thought that such a genius would appear in the Zither sect. Even if that person's spiritual power couldn't compare to Lu Yuan's, he definitely wasn't weak. He probably wasn't much weaker than Hulina. Interesting person? Hulina asked curiously. Who is it? I don't know. Lu Yuan shook his head. Lu Yuan didn't know much about the Zither sect. They were good at using spiritual power to control others, and they had a certain amount of experience in the study of spiritual power. Their most important achievement and method was to store spiritual power in the sound of the Zither, using sound to attack and kill enemies. This was also why the Zither sect had a place in the Xianra Empire. Even when compared to the four lower sects, their strength wasn't far off. That person just now had a grave and stern temperament, and his eyes were sharp. Even his clothes were different from ordinary soul masters. Presumably, his position in the Zither sect isn't ordinary. Lu Yuan murmured. Among the younger generation, Lu Yuan's spiritual power had always been successful. Apart from Chihiro Snow, even Hulina couldn't compare to it. It was precisely because of this that he could resist Hulina's charm. Today, when he was testing the waters, he had actually almost capsized. Lu Yuan couldn't help but be interested. Someone from the Zither sect? Sooner or later, we'll have a chance to meet. Lu Yuan said softly. Zither sect? Hearing Lu Yuan's murmur, Hulina also looked in the direction of the Zither sect. Unfortunately, she didn't see anything. She could only helplessly withdraw her gaze. Lu Yuan's gaze continued to move, and then suddenly stopped. This time, it wasn't because he was being spied on, but because he discovered a young girl with an extremely good figure. Lu Yuan was momentarily shocked. This girl's expression was extremely cold, and even her eyes were ice cold. She was dressed in black clothes and leather pants. Looking at her face, she was at most the same age as Lu Yuan. However, her figure was even more fiery than Hulina's, and her arrogance was suffocating. I'm afraid that not only senior sister, but even little Shui can't compare to her. However, teacher can compare to her. Lu Yuan thought to himself, wow, what am I thinking? You actually dare to talk about teacher. You deserve a beating. Lu Yuan cursed inwardly, feeling ashamed of his thoughts. This girl by herself seemed to give Lu Yuan a familiar impression. He felt that he had heard of her before, but he just couldn't remember where. Lu Yuan shook his head and discarded his thoughts. His gaze once again turned to Dai Tianfeng's direction, because his nonsense was already over. Next is the opening of the ruins. Dai Tianfeng said in detail, Young soul masters, please prepare yourselves and enter one by one. After he finished speaking, his hand seals changed. As if space was suddenly compressed, a circular door suddenly appeared in the air above Sunyue City. The door was pitch black, as if it was connected to another world. This is a different space, a small world, Golden Crocodile exclaimed. Ancient ruins are really extraordinary. Hulina couldn't help but nod. Lu Yuan didn't say anything. Instead, his gaze was fixed on the purple bead at the top of the circular door. His spiritual sense, which surpassed that of an ordinary person, allowed him to feel that the bead contained an extremely powerful destructive power. This power was far more powerful than anyone Lu Yuan had seen so far. Even Sindoryu and Bibidan didn't seem to have this kind of power. This kind of power seemed to be above the Douluo continent. This definitely didn't belong to the category of human soul masters, but belonged to a higher level. Lu Yuan thought to himself. Chapter 104. Perhaps this bead is a tool used to restrict those who enter. As long as they are of the right age, they won't be affected. However, if they are older than the right age, then the power emanating from this bead will definitely turn them into ashes on the spot. Lu Yuan said softly as he looked at the purple bead above the circular door in midair. That's right, the golden crocodile said. According to my senses, this bead contains an extremely powerful destructive power. Even the great consecrator's power can't compare to it. Facing this bead, I have a familiar feeling as if I'm facing an angel statue. The angel statue that the golden crocodile was talking about was naturally the statue of the six-winged angel hidden in the angel temple in the depths of the consecration hall. The six-winged angel god seat was inside. It seemed that Lu Yuan's guess was right. This hurdle in front of them was a restriction left behind by a god. Since it was left behind by a god, no one present could break it. Even if the Sionra Empire used all of its power, it wouldn't be able to break it. They could only follow the rules. Obuchi, when you and the little girl go in later, you have to be careful. I suspect that these ruins might have something to do with a god. I just don't know what god it is, but it's definitely very dangerous inside. So you have to take care of yourself, the golden crocodile said. Originally, the golden crocodile only thought that there might be something strange about these ruins, but he wasn't too worried. However, the power that the bead contained made the golden crocodile understand that it might have something to do with a supreme god. As such, the importance of these ruins increased greatly in the golden crocodile's heart. There were definitely extraordinary things in the ruins of a god, but it was also inevitable that there would be great danger. Danger and opportunity always coexisted. Hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded. For a god, especially one that was left behind by the goddess of life, one of the 5 supreme divine kings of the god realm, Lu Yuan wouldn't be complacent even if he was proud. Dai Tianfeng activated his hand seals and completely opened the door of the ruins before retracting his hand seals. Dai Tianfeng lived up to his name as a rank 94 titled Douluo. He was actually able to conceal and reopen the ruins that had originally appeared. Of course, it was limited to this. If Dai Tianfeng wanted to take a step further, or if he wanted to enter the ruins to take a look, it was absolutely impossible. As long as he entered, he would definitely be crushed and turned into ashes. Young soul masters, you may enter now. Dai Tianfeng's voice rang out. I'll repeat myself one last time. Only soul cultivators under the age of 20 can enter. If anyone tries to sneak in, they'll be reduced to ashes at the entrance. I'll kindly remind you that if you do this again, it'll have nothing to do with me. After Dai Tianfeng finished speaking, a pair of sharp and powerful eyes swept over all the soul masters present. The aura he exuded was vigorous and domineering. He truly lived up to his name as the Iron Emperor of the Star Luo Empire. Enter now. As soon as Dai Tianfeng's voice fell, a golden-haired youth walked out from not far from Dai Tianfeng. It was Davis. Davis walked towards the door, one step at a time. The door shone brightly, and a flight of stairs was laid out from the door. Davis walked up the stairs step by step towards the circular door. At this moment, a black shadow darted through the crowd. It was a woman with a very impressive figure, but she wasn't the young girl Lu Yuan had seen earlier. She followed behind Davis as they walked towards the circular door. Following behind Davis, that person should be Zhu Zhuyan. Lu Yuan thought to himself. But this Zhu Zhuyan seems to be a little similar to the girl I saw earlier. Could that girl be Zhu Zhuqing from the original novel? Lu Yuan thought to himself. But it's very possible. The original novel said that Zhu Zhuqing had a child's face and big boobs. It's quite fitting. This is too scary, isn't it? She seems to be much older than Senior's sister. As he spoke, he couldn't help but glance at Ulina beside him. Junior brother, what are you looking at? Ulina's voice sounded. She felt that Lu Yuan's gaze was somewhat unfriendly. Nothing. Lu Yuan quickly withdrew his gaze. This Ulina's senses are too sensitive. Is that so? Ulina frowned, feeling that something was wrong. But in the blink of an eye, she shook her head and said to Lu Yuan, Junior brother, when are we going in? No hurry. It's useless to be anxious about this kind of relic. Lu Yuan smiled faintly, not feeling the slightest sense of urgency. If the relic of the goddess of life was so easy to break through, it would be a disgrace to her title as one of the 5 supreme gods. Davis walked forward step by step and finally reached the door. A purple light spilled from the bead, enveloping Davis in it. The purple light disappeared as quickly as it came. It swept past Davis's body and disappeared again. Seeing this, Davis stepped into the door and disappeared. Immediately afterward, Zhu Jiyun also stepped into the door through the illumination of the purple light. Davis and Zhu Jiyun both passed safely, and the atmosphere on the scene instantly heated up. Young soul masters from various forces rubbed their fists and rubbed their palms, ready to enter the relic and do a big job. Time passed slowly, and one by one, people passed the test and entered the door. Of course, there was also someone who didn't believe in heresy. He was annihilated on the spot by the destructive power of the bead, not even leaving behind a piece of bone. This person's miserable state caused the soul cultivators present to tremble in fear. Some people who were originally prepared to fish in troubled waters were frightened and put away their funny ideas. Let's go. Senior sister. Lu Yuan took Hulina's hand and walked up the stairs step by step. Both of them were wearing masks, but their temperament couldn't be concealed by a mere mask. As long as one had some eyesight, one could tell that these two people were not simple. Dai Tianfeng looked at the two of them, and his eyes flickered. These two are not far from Dai Tianfeng. Osfer heard Dai Tianfeng's words and said, "These are my martial soul palace's candidates. What advice does your majesty have?" "No, your palace is indeed full of talents. These two young people's temperaments are not ordinary, and their strength is not simple either." Dai Tianfeng squinted his eyes and smiled. Osfer didn't answer. He disapproved of Dai Tianfeng's words. "These two are the disciples of my martial soul palace's pope. Their strength and talent are top-notch. Compared to your useless son, aren't they much better? Do I need you to say that?" Of course, Osfer didn't say these words out loud. After all, he still had to give Dai Tianfeng some face. Lu Yuan and the others came in front of the door. The purple light diffused from the bead and enveloped Lu Yuan and Zhu Jiyun. Under the illumination of the purple light, Lu Yuan only felt a huge, heavenly might pressing down on his heart, and there was a sense of powerlessness that he couldn't resist. But suddenly, the god-slaying spear in his mind trembled slightly, and Lu Yuan recovered in an instant. Holding Hulina's hand, Lu Yuan stepped into the circular door. Chapter 105. A small world, a world that existed independently of the Douluo continent. Generally speaking, only an existence above rank 99 could create a small world, and the space was extremely unstable. If one wanted to create a small world that was stable and full of vitality, only a god could do it. And the goddess of life was the supreme god who controlled the power of life. Perhaps in the entire divine realm, there was no god who was better at creation than her. Coming out of the circular door, Lu Yuan saw a huge mountain range. Lush trees were everywhere. As expected of the goddess of life, even the world she created was so full of vitality. Lu Yuan took a deep breath and felt refreshed. Then, he habitually pinched his right hand, but it ended up pinching empty air. Lu Yuan was shocked and hurriedly turned around, but Hulina was no longer beside him. "Senior sister?" Lu Yuan cried out in surprise. Just now, they were clearly holding hands when they came in. How could they suddenly disappear? Lu Yuan's heart was a little hazy. Without him by her side, what if Hulina encountered some danger? Thinking of this, Lu Yuan was very anxious. "When I came in just now, I only felt darkness in front of me, and there seemed to be light flowing in the haziness. Now that I think about it, it should be the so-called teleportation array. It seems that senior sister and I should have been teleported to 2 different places." Forcefully suppressing the anxiety in his heart, Lu Yuan analyzed carefully. Since it was teleportation, senior sister must be in some corner of the small world now. Looking for her in this big small world is definitely like looking for a needle in a haystack. But there's a place that senior sister will definitely go to. Looking at the lush mountain range in the distance, Lu Yuan's expression was firm. No matter where they were teleported to in the small world, their final destination was the Temple of Life. This Temple of Life was at the center of the entire small world. This was not Lu Yuan's wild guess, but a feeling that arose spontaneously in his heart ever since he entered this small world. And regarding this feeling, Lu Yuan now believed very much that it could not be wrong. However, there will definitely be no lack of danger along the way. With senior sister's strength, you should be able to handle it. Lu Yuan secretly comforted himself. Hulina was also a top genius. Although she was only 14 years old, she had already reached level 38. With such strength, as long as she was careful, she should not encounter any danger. Now that Lu Yuan and Hulina were far apart, he couldn't help her. He could only pin his hopes on Hulina. Lu Yuan believed that Hulina wouldn't let him down. Senior sister, be safe. I'll wait for you in the Temple of Life. Lu Yuan's expression was resolute as he began to walk towards the center of the small world. He hoped that when Hulina arrived at the Church of Life, she would be the first to see him. As he walked towards the lush forest, Lu Yuan held the world-shaking spear in his hand, and the clear chi scripture in his body was circulating at all times. In this small world, although the current situation seemed very stable, Lu Yuan did not dare to be careless. Who knew what kind of danger would pop out at any time? Furthermore, Lu Yuan did not believe that there would be no soul beasts or the like in such a dense forest. The hidden dangers were definitely not to be underestimated. Lu Yuan's foot stepped on a withered branch. Under Lu Yuan's foot, the withered branch broke instantly. Whoosh! A black shadow scuttled past Lu Yuan's eyes. It was so fast that even Lu Yuan's eyesight didn't notice it. What's that? Lu Yuan's expression froze, and he held the world-shaking spear tighter in his hand. He seemed to have encountered some trouble not long after entering this small world. Lu Yuan was secretly vigilant, and his perception quickly spread out at this moment. Whoosh! Another black shadow swept past Lu Yuan's right, bringing with it a strong gust of wind. Lu Yuan couldn't help but furrow his brows slightly. Whoosh! The sound of the wind could be heard again. Lu Yuan quickly turned around, and a trace of light flashed past his eyes. This time he saw it clearly. It was a black netherworld mink. There were flame-like patterns between its eyebrows, and its green eyes were filled with killing intent. A 2,000-year netherworld mink. Lu Yuan's heart was filled with fighting spirit. A 2,000-year soul beast was comparable to a human high-level soul elder. Netherworld minks are good at speed, but their physiques are on the weaker side. Lu Yuan's mind spun rapidly. After collecting almost all the books in the Martial Soul Palace, Lu Yuan could recognize most of the soul beasts on the Douluo continent. The netherworld mink in front of him was naturally one of them. Gee! The netherworld mink's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and its sharp claws scratched towards Lu Yuan's neck. If this claw landed, it would definitely cut Lu Yuan's blood vessels. No matter how strong Lu Yuan's defense was, it would be useless. You're courting death. Vast Sea Universe. Lu Yuan immediately used the strongest move of the Vast Sea Spear art, the Vast Sea Universe. The world-shaking spear carried an enormous power as it pierced towards the netherworld mink. This move was very fast. Not only did it explode with the powerful physical strength of the Golden Dragon's bloodline, but also borrowed the strength of the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions. In an instant, its speed was extremely fast. Even the netherworld mink couldn't avoid it. Pah! The world-shaking spear carried the enormous strength of the Golden Dragon's bloodline and instantly sent the netherworld mink flying. It crashed into a tree in the distance, and the tree that needed a person to wrap their arms around it broke apart. Gee! The netherworld mink had a large hole in its body from the world-shaking spear. It struggled to get up and tried to escape. You want to run? Lu Yuan wielded his spear and became one with it. He thrust his right hand forward, and the world-shaking spear flew through the air and stabbed the netherworld mink's body into the ground. Lu Yuan took a few steps forward and pulled out his spear. The netherworld mink was already dead. Lu Yuan couldn't be blamed for being ruthless. This netherworld mink attacked Lu Yuan first, so Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't be merciful. Therefore, Lu Yuan didn't feel anything after killing the netherworld mink. The netherworld mink was considered a mid-tier soul beast. Its 2,000-year cultivation was comparable to an ordinary high-level soul elder. However, it wasn't enough to deal with Lu Yuan. Furthermore, Lu Yuan had used the vast sea universe and the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions from the vast sea spear art to deal with it. It wasn't strange for him to kill it in one move. Lu Yuan didn't bother with the netherworld mink's corpse and continued walking forward. This time, he didn't encounter any danger. Occasionally, he would encounter a group of soul beasts, but Lu Yuan stealthily avoided them. For hours passed, and it was already noon. Lu Yuan took out some rations from his astral ring and leaned against a tree to gnaw on them. Suddenly, a layer of white mist appeared out of nowhere and shrouded the place where Lu Yuan was in an instant. Lu Yuan focused his eyes and put away the unfinished rations. He held the world-shaking spear in his hand again. He focused his eyes and seemed to see a figure slowly walking out from the depths of the white fog. Chapter 106. Lu Yuan tightened his grip on the peerless spear as he looked at the figure that seemed to be slowly walking towards him from the white fog. In this strange white fog, who knew what was coming? Was it a friend or a foe? He still needed to be more vigilant. Lu Yuan's eyes widened as his martial soul entered his body again. This vast white fog gave Lu Yuan a vague sense of danger. Staring closely at the figure that appeared in front of him, Lu Yuan prepared himself and was ready to attack at any time. The figure gradually became clearer. It was a beautiful figure. Long golden hair draped over her shoulders. 2 willowy eyebrows with a heroic spirit. Her skin was whiter than snow. Her angelic face carried a sense of holiness and nobility. Looking at the familiar figure in the golden dress, Lu Yuan's heart trembled. This was the figure that he had been thinking about day and night. Little Snow, Lu Yuan cried out in alarm and couldn't help but take 2 steps forward. Suddenly, his expression changed and he stopped in his tracks. When he saw Chihiro Snow's figure just now, he was pleasantly surprised. But after thinking about it, he already knew that Chihiro Snow was far away in Heaven Do. How could he appear here? Who are you? Lu Yuan's gaze turned sharp as he held his spear horizontally. How dare he transform into Little Snow's appearance to deceive him? He was simply courting death. One had to know that Little Snow was the deepest taboo in his heart. Anyone who touched her would die. Obuchi, I'm your Little Snow, Chihiro Snow said with a smile. Huh. Lu Yuan's mouth curved into a cold smile. He originally didn't believe that the person in front of him was Chihiro Snow. Now that Chihiro Snow spoke, it was completely exposed. My Little Snow? Lu Yuan muttered. Although I wanted to hear Little Snow say this sentence, with Little Snow's personality, she definitely won't say it. At least not now. You still want to lie to me? Lu Yuan clenched the amazing spear in his hand. No matter who the person in front of him was, he had dared to impersonate Chihiro Snow to deceive him. For Lu Yuan, he had already been sentenced to death. Obuchi, it's really Xiao Shui. I haven't seen you for a year. I miss you so much. Chihiro Snow said when he saw that Lu Yuan didn't believe him. Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes and didn't say anything. As the figure got closer and closer, the bloodline and soul power in his body circulated rapidly. As long as Lu Yuan made a move, he would be able to release a huge amount of power. Junior brother, be careful. That's not Chihiro Snow. Just as Lu Yuan was about to attack Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan's clear voice entered Lu Yuan's ears. Senior sister? Lu Yuan turned his head and saw a girl in pink and white clothes standing there. She had short golden hair and a pair of seductive eyes. Who else could it be but Hulina? Senior sister, why are you here? Lu Yuan couldn't help but take 2 steps closer to Hulina when he saw her. He was still worried about Hulina's safety, but he didn't expect to see her now. Junior brother, I've been looking for you. Did you know? I've been looking for you ever since we were separated. Fortunately, I've finally found you. Hulina looked at Lu Yuan with love in her eyes. Lu Yuan was touched when he heard this. He subconsciously walked towards Hulina. Right now, he just wanted to hug Hulina tightly in his arms. Senior sister, Lu Yuan called out softly. Junior brother. Hulina opened her arms towards Lu Yuan with a smile in her eyes. Lu Yuan quickened his footsteps. Suddenly, Lu Yuan's body froze. The clear chi scripture in his body had automatically alerted him. Looking at Hulina, who was smiling sweetly in front of him, Lu Yuan vaguely felt that something was wrong. Earlier, he hadn't thought about it. Lu Yuan had seen through Chihiro Snow because he knew that Chihiro Snow was far away in Heaven Do. However, Hulina had entered the ruins with Lu Yuan, so Lu Yuan hadn't suspected Hulina's identity. But now that he thought about it, it seemed that the timing of Hulina's appearance was a bit too coincidental. Senior sister, how did you get here? Lu Yuan asked in a seemingly unintentional manner. Hulina said, ever since I entered that door, I found myself transported to a place I didn't recognize. You weren't by my side, so I could only search for you. After a long time, I finally found you. Hulina looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of excitement. Is that so? Lu Yuan nodded, but the doubt in his eyes deepened. Was it really that coincidental? Then why did you say that Xiao Shui was a fake? Lu Yuan suddenly asked. I met her just now. She wanted to trick me, but I found out. Junior brother, you have to be careful. She's a soul beast in disguise. She was pretending to be you to trick me. I almost fell for it. Hulina said. Is that so? Lu Yuan asked. Yes. Hulina nodded. Obu Chi, don't be fooled by this woman. She's a fake. She wants to kill us. After hearing Hulina's words, Chihiro Snow hurriedly said, Is that so? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow and said, You know, your acting is too clumsy. Xiao Shui isn't even in these ruins, and you still want to trick me? You're thinking too much. You already knew? Chihiro Snow's face darkened. Of course. Surrender. Lu Yuan picked up the world-shaking spear, his eyes filled with killing intent. Don't even think about it. If you want to catch me, we'll see how strong you are. Die. As he spoke, he attacked Hulina. Hulina's 3 soul rings, yellow and purple, shone as the two of them fought. This fake Chihiro Snow was quite strong. Hulina was at a disadvantage not long after they fought. Bang! The fake Chihiro Snow's palm landed on Hulina's body, and Hulina's body was sent flying. She spat out a trace of blood. Senior sister. Lu Yuan used his Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions and caught Hulina. Are you okay? I'm fine. Hulina shook her head and said, But I'm afraid I can't help you now. There was a hint of regret in her voice. It's fine. Leave it to me. Lu Yuan helped Hulina sit down. He turned to face Chihiro Snow and gripped the world-shaking spear tightly in his right hand. Okay, junior brother. Hulina agreed. Looking at Lu Yuan's back, her jade-like fingernails slowly extended, forming a white fox claw. Her eyes shone with a trace of ferocity, and the fox claw directly grabbed at Lu Yuan's back. Puchi! This was the sound of the spear tip piercing through the heart. Lu Yuan's expression was indifferent. The world-shaking spear in his hand fiercely pierced through Hulina's left chest. You! Hulina spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Lu Yuan in disbelief. Looking at Hulina in front of him, Lu Yuan said indifferently with a cold smile on his face, I was almost fooled by you. Your performance was quite interesting. Don't you think so, Dream Demon Fox? Chapter 107. You, how did you know that? The Hulina in front of him was spitting out blood, her eyes filled with doubt and confusion, and of course, deep resentment. Dream Demon Fox, you're good at illusions and confusing others. You have the ability to create an illusory space with other people's consciousness. If I'm not wrong, this so-called white fog is an illusion you created. Little Snow, including the you in front of me, are all illusions you created based on my own consciousness. Lu Yuan pointed at Chihiro Snow, and sure enough, Chihiro Snow had already disappeared. You're very smart. You deliberately created Little Snow to see me, not to trick me, but to let me see through it. Then you used the image of a senior sister to expose Little Snow's deception, making me believe you without a doubt. Then you lured Little Snow to fight with you, and then you deliberately acted like you were no match for her, baiting me, and then you attacked from behind. Lu Yuan clicked his tongue. To be able to think of such a method, Dream Demon Fox, your cultivation is not low. I'm afraid you have at least 10,000 years of cultivation. How in the world did you see through it? Even a 10,000-year-old beast would die, without a doubt, if its heart was pierced by the world-shock spear. Actually, it was quite lucky. At first, I didn't notice that the senior sister you were impersonating was fake, but my cultivation technique is a bit special. It allows me to have a similar ability to sense danger. I'm sorry, but just now I felt a very strong sense of danger coming from your body. Although it was faint, it was extremely fatal. Naturally, this alerted me. And with vigilance, coupled with the matter of a soul beast impersonating you said, it wasn't difficult for me to see through it. Lu Yuan laughed. There aren't many soul beasts that can impersonate others. Coupled with this special illusion, it was really hard for me not to think of you, Dream Demon Fox. I didn't lose unjustly, but I can't accept it. If not for that so-called cultivation technique, you would have died by my hands. With your flesh and blood, I can definitely break through the 50,000-year barrier and become the Dream Demon Fox King. I can't accept it. I can't accept it. The Dream Demon Fox cried out mournfully. 50,000 years? Doesn't that mean that your cultivation is 49,999 years? He's only one step away from becoming king in 50,000 years. Lu Yuan was secretly shocked. However, Lu Yuan still pulled out absolute terror. Blood splattered everywhere, and the fantasy fox's aura quickly weakened and disappeared. The surrounding white fog also began to dissipate at a visible rate. The Hulina in front of him had already disappeared, leaving behind a 3-meter-long snow-white fox. It was the Dream Magic Fox, a 49,999-year-old fantasy fox. I'm so damn lucky. If this Dream Demonic Fox had really taken that step, then I'd be dead for sure. The Dream Demonic Fox could only use its mental power to charm or construct illusions to kill its enemies when it was less than 50,000 years old. Once it reached 50,000 years old, its physical body would be greatly strengthened. At that time, the Dream Demonic Fox will be able to kill Lu Yuan just by relying on its physical body. However, under 50,000 years old, the Dream Demonic Fox's physical attack power wasn't strong. Its strength was mainly in illusions. Its physical body was like a human's spiritual-type soul master. It was weak. It was because of this that Lu Yuan was able to use absolute terror to directly pierce through the Dream Demonic Fox's heart and kill it in one blow. If it were an ordinary 10,000-year soul beast, Lu Yuan might not be able to deal with it, because absolute terror might not be able to pierce through a 10,000-year soul beast body. Soul beasts with weak physical bodies like the Dream Demonic Fox were in the minority. They belonged to the type that was severely biased. If the absolute terror directly pierced through the heart, even immortals would find it difficult to save them. Thinking about what happened just now, Lu Yuan felt a lingering fear. If not for the existence of the Clear Chi scripture, Lu Yuan might have really been bewitched. This was because the Dream Demonic Fox had constructed a very realistic Hulina. Furthermore, the Dream Demonic Fox's mental power was much higher than Lu Yuan's. From the beginning to the end, Lu Yuan didn't realize when he fell into an illusion. This was a very frightening thing. A 49,999-year-old Dream Demonic Fox. Its mental power is comparable to some soul sages who specialize in mental power. If it wasn't careless, I'm afraid I would have died here. Lu Yuan sighed inwardly. If the Dream Demonic Fox didn't want to rely on pretending to be Hulina to deceive Lu Yuan and directly used its own charm and illusions to kill Lu Yuan, then Lu Yuan might have been a corpse by now. However, there were no ifs in this world. In the end, Lu Yuan caught the Dream Demonic Fox off guard and completed an achievement that even soul sages would find difficult to accomplish. He single-handedly killed a 49,999-year-old Dream Demonic Fox. However, Even if one's mental strength is strong, the weakness of one's physical body is still a problem. Take the dream magic fox, for example. Even if its cultivation is only one step away from reaching 50,000 years, so what? An ordinary spear could take its life. Thinking about the similar Hulina, Lu Yuan secretly decided that for Hulina's safety, he had to strengthen Hulina's body when he returned. I wonder if this dream demonic fox with a cultivation close to 50,000 years can give me a pleasant surprise and drop some good stuff. Looking at the huge corpse of the dream demonic fox in front of him and the black soul ring above it, Lu Yuan thought to himself. The dream demonic fox's fur was very beautiful and was a good material for making fur coats, so Lu Yuan didn't waste it. When he used his sword to cut it, he also paid attention to not destroy the integrity of the fox's fur. As for what he was looking for when he used his sword to cut it, I believe that anyone who has seen a Douluo would know. After cutting off all 4 limbs, he still didn't find anything. However, Lu Yuan wasn't disappointed, because for a spiritual-type soul beast like this, if it dropped a soul bone, the chances of it dropping a skull would be relatively high. Furthermore, this dream demonic fox had too much unwillingness before it died, so the chances of it dropping a soul bone should be much higher. His sword cut open the dream demonic fox's head, and sure enough, there was a ball of colorful light shining inside. Lu Yuan was delighted, and he picked out the skull with his sword and caught it in his hand. This skull was relatively complete, and it was suffused with strong spiritual fluctuations. Under these fluctuations, even with Lu Yuan's mental power, he couldn't help but be a little dazed. The skills of this skull are clearly illusions and charm, so it's more suitable for Senior Sister. At the very least, it's more suitable for Senior Sister than the skull of wisdom that teacher took out in the original work. Furthermore, in terms of quality, this one isn't any worse than that one. Lu Yuan thought to himself. After storing the skull in his star ring, Lu Yuan prepared to give Hulina a pleasant surprise when they met again. As for the dream demonic fox's snow-white fur, he couldn't let it go either. This dream demonic fox's body was 3 meters long, and such a long fox's fur was enough to make several fur coats. When the time came, Xiao Shui, Senior Sister, and teacher would all have one. Wouldn't that be perfect? While thinking, Lu Yuan used a short sword to cut off the dream demonic fox's snow-white fur, and then stored it in his star ring. Chapter 108. The journey was arduous. This forest that seemed peaceful and full of life actually brought Lu Yuan a lot of trouble. Along the way, they encountered no less than a few waves of soul beasts. Fortunately, Lu Yuan was strong enough to kill these soul beasts one by one. Nightfall. Spending the night in the forest was definitely an extremely dangerous thing, especially when Lu Yuan was the only one left. Just the roars of the soul beasts in the forest at night made Lu Yuan have no choice but to be alert. Lu Yuan meditated to recover his mental and physical strength while using his spiritual perception. He didn't dare to relax at all. This forest was extremely large, and it would take a long time to pass through it. Thus, Lu Yuan had to ensure that he had enough physical strength. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. Even though the roars of the soul beasts were incessant, Lu Yuan still managed to pass through his first night in the forest peacefully. As the sun gradually rose, Lu Yuan opened his eyes. After washing up and eating some rations, Lu Yuan continued forward. The forest was too big. The sooner he got out, the sooner he could meet up with Senior Sister. She should be looking for him right now. Thinking of Hulina, Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. Holding the world-shaking spear, Lu Yuan continued forward. Roar! Accompanied by a tiger's roar, Lu Yuan's world-shaking spear pierced through the body of an explosive flame tiger. It was a 1,000-year explosive flame tiger. Lu Yuan withdrew his world-shaking spear without any fluctuations in his heart. This was already the 3rd time he had encountered a 1,000-year soul beast today. Of course, in front of Lu Yuan's powerful strength, they were all killed one by one. Lu Yuan habitually cut the explosive flame tiger's body. It was obvious that a 1,000-year explosive flame tiger wouldn't have something as good as a soul bone. However, Lu Yuan wasn't disappointed as he had already prepared himself. He cut up some fresh tiger meat and stored it in his astral ring after processing it. He didn't bring much rations with him, and he had a huge appetite. If this continued, he would run out sooner or later. As for why he didn't bring more, it was because the soul beast meat couldn't be stored for long and would go bad. Therefore, Lu Yuan only brought enough for a few meals at most. Lu Yuan wouldn't eat spoiled meat. Therefore, he decided to eat the meat of these soul beasts first. As for the rations, they were specially made and had a long shelf life. Lu Yuan regretted that he didn't know any ice-type abilities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to worry about those soul beasts going bad if he brought too many of them. All he had to do was freeze them. That way, he wouldn't have to worry about food. Noon. Unknowingly, Lu Yuan had walked for a few more hours. It was already noon. Lu Yuan found a relatively spacious area, lit a bonfire, and began to roast the explosive flame tiger meat. It was forbidden to light a bonfire in the forest at night because it would attract the attention of many soul beasts. However, during the day, due to the strong sunlight, it wouldn't have much of an effect. Furthermore, the explosive flame tiger meat had traces of fresh blood, so it was best to roast it. Eating raw meat was something Lu Yuan didn't have the habit of doing. Lu Yuan was a good cook and liked to bring some seasonings with him. Lu Yuan had salt, basil, and honey in his astral ring. Under the roasting of the fire, the explosive flame tiger meat gradually shrank and drops of golden fat slowly dripped from the meat. Lu Yuan methodically sprinkled seasonings and smeared honey on the meat. Each piece of meat was golden in color and emitted a rich meaty aroma. The meat that Lu Yuan cut was very large and long. When skewered on the washed willow branches, it glowed with oil and looked very appetizing. He roasted a total of 3 skewers, which seemed to weigh about 5 kilograms. Lu Yuan realized that his appetite seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. Furthermore, the explosive flame tiger was a 1,000-year soul beast, so its meat was extremely good for Lu Yuan's body. At least it was nutritious enough. The flames gradually extinguished, leaving only some red charcoal. Lu Yuan picked up a skewer of barbecued meat and sniffed it. A rich aroma entered his nostrils, and Lu Yuan could not help but nod in satisfaction. It seemed that his culinary skills were still as excellent as before. Lu Yuan picked up a skewer and was about to bite into it when a figure suddenly barged into Lu Yuan's line of sight. It was a girl wearing a black leather jacket. Her figure was outstanding, but her small jade-like face was filled with coldness. Her pitch-black eyes were also filled with bone-chilling coldness. It was Zhu Zhuqing, whom Lu Yuan had seen before. However, her current state was not good. There were 2 obvious wounds on her arms that were bleeding profusely. There was also a wound on her lower abdomen. Her jade-like face was pale, and she swayed as she ran. It seemed that even her soul power had reached its limit. Behind her, there was a mosquito the size of a millstone chasing after her. This mosquito had 2 pairs of blood-red wings, and each pair of wings was densely covered with golden patterns. This was a top-notch hunting-type soul beast on the same level as the man-faced demon spider, the blood-winged golden mosquito. The mosquito chasing Zhu Zhuqing was clearly a 1,000-year soul beast. It was no wonder that Zhu Zhuqing was so heavily injured. Lu Yuan saw Zhu Zhuqing, and Zhu Zhuqing naturally saw Lu Yuan as well. A trace of pleasant surprise flashed in Zhu Zhuqing's eyes, but it instantly dimmed. There was a struggle in her eyes. She actually turned to the right and staggered away. Lu Yuan was shocked. When he saw the pleasant surprise in Zhu Zhuqing's eyes, he thought that Zhu Zhuqing would run towards him and lure the blood-winged golden mosquito over. Then, she would let him fight with the blood-winged golden mosquito while she withdrew herself. In the end, he didn't expect her to turn around and run away. Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel surprised. He didn't expect this ice-cold girl to have a kind heart. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. If Zhu Zhuqing had chosen to divert the disaster, then she definitely wouldn't have had a chance to live. This was because Lu Yuan hated it when people schemed against him. Moreover, Zhu Zhuqing was one of the original Shrek's 7 monsters. The current Lu Yuan didn't have a good impression of Shrek's 7 monsters. As for the 1,000-year blood-winged golden mosquito, Lu Yuan didn't put in his eyes. He could easily kill it. However, Zhu Zhuqing's choice now made Lu Yuan's heart tremble. It touched Lu Yuan's soft spot. She was such a beautiful girl, and she was also very kind. Lu Yuan couldn't just watch such a beautiful girl die in front of him. Holding the astonishing spear, Lu Yuan's figure disappeared like the wind. Zhu Zhuqing was seriously injured, and her soul power was exhausted. She couldn't even use her martial soul possession, so how could she escape the blood-winged golden mosquito's pursuit? Zhu Zhuqing staggered and fell forward. The blood-winged golden mosquito behind her stabbed its sharp mouthpart towards Zhu Zhuqing's body. Zhu Zhuqing closed her eyes in despair. Her fiancé had run away from home and abandoned her. Her future was already bleak. Today, she was going to die in the hands of a mosquito. 2 lines of tears flowed from the corners of Zhu Zhuqing's eyes. She said to herself, "Perhaps this is my destiny." Chapter 109. However, the expected stinging pain did not come. On the contrary, Zhu Zhuqing only felt as if she had fallen into a warm embrace. The smell of the opposite sex from the embrace made Zhu Zhuqing a little intoxicated. For a moment, her face could not help but blush. Zhu Zhuqing quickly opened her eyes and saw a man in white. He wore a gorgeous golden mask and held a 2-meter-long dark golden spear in his hand. The blood-winged golden mosquito that was chasing her had been pierced by the spear and nailed to the ground. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes widened. The blood-winged golden mosquito that had chased her in such a sorry state had actually been so easily killed by the man in front of her. Who exactly was this man in white? Zhu Zhuqing stared blankly at Lu Yuan with a trace of shock in her cold eyes. "Are you okay?" Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, who was staring blankly at him, Lu Yuan asked softly. Although Lu Yuan's appearance was covered, his temperament was unique. Coupled with his cool but magnetic voice, Zhu Zhuqing's body trembled unconsciously. I'm fine," Zhu Zhuqing said softly. Lu Yuan nodded and said, "That's good. You don't have to worry. The mosquito is dead." As he said that, he shook the spear and the body of the blood-winged golden mosquito was thrown away. "And," Zhu Zhuqing nodded gently. Can you let me go?" Although it felt good to be held in Lu Yuan's arms, Zhu Zhuqing was still a very conservative person. How could she let herself rely on the arms of a boy she had just met? "Yes." Lu Yuan gently let go. Zhu Zhuqing struggled to stand up. After taking 2 steps, her legs suddenly gave way and she fell face to face. Lu Yuan quickly took 2 steps forward and caught Zhu Zhuqing. This time was different from before. Just now, Lu Yuan hugged Zhu Zhuqing from behind, so there was no special feeling. But this time it was from the front. Zhu Zhuqing's pride brought a huge pressure, which made Lu Yuan's mind shake. Getting rid of the bad thoughts in his mind, Lu Yuan supported Zhu Zhuqing again and said, "Be careful." Zhu Zhuqing blushed and nodded. Lu Yuan continued, "You are injured and have lost too much blood. Your body is quite weak. Let me help you to sit over there." Zhu Zhuqing nodded slightly. Lu Yuan held Zhu Zhuqing's arm and sat down at the place where Lu Yuan had barbecued the meat. "Do you want some?" Lu Yuan raised the barbecued meat on the grill. Zhu Zhuqing shook her head. She wanted to say something, but all of a sudden, her vision turned black and she fainted. Seeing Zhu Zhuqing faint, Lu Yuan took 2 steps forward and checked Zhu Zhuqing's pulse. Fortunately, it was still there. Did he lose too much blood and pass out? Lu Yuan muttered to himself. Not only were there 2 wounds on Zhu Zhuqing's arms, but there was also a wound on her abdomen. Blood was still oozing out. If she didn't treat it quickly, her life would be in danger. "Sorry for the offense," Lu Yuan said softly. He used a short sword to cut open the leather clothing around Zhu Zhuqing's arm wound. Then, he cleaned the wound, applied some medicinal powder, and bandaged it with a white cloth. The wound on the arm was easy to treat, but the abdomen was a bit more difficult. After all, It was inevitable that there would be some inconveniences between a man and a woman. However, it was a matter of life and death, so he couldn't care less. Lu Yuan slowly untied Zhu Zhuqing's leather clothing, revealing the short blouse and corset inside. Without the binding of the leather clothing, Zhu Zhuqing's pride was even more prominent. Lu Yuan didn't look sideways. He suppressed the desire in his heart. He wasn't the kind of person who liked to take advantage of others. He slowly pulled up Zhu Zhuqing's blouse, revealing Zhu Zhuqing's abdomen. There was a hideous wound on the originally smooth and flat abdomen. A large amount of blood had formed a blood scab and was still oozing out blood. Only then did Lu Yuan know that Zhu Zhuqing had suffered such a serious injury. Moreover, the blood around the wound was a little black. This was a sign of poisoning. "You're really miserable. You're lucky to have met me," Lu Yuan said indifferently. With such a serious injury, it was no wonder that Zhu Zhuqing, as a soul master, would have fainted. If the bleeding hadn't been stopped in time and the poison had been removed, Zhu Zhuqing would have died without a doubt. Zhu Zhuqing's wound was obviously caused by the mouth parts of the blood-winged golden mosquito. Although the blood-winged golden mosquito didn't have the corrosive and neurotoxic properties of a man-faced demon spider, it was still an expert in using poison. After being poisoned by the blood-winged golden mosquito, if the poison wasn't removed in time, the flesh and blood of the victim would turn into a pool of liquid when the poison took effect. Fortunately, the blood-winged golden mosquito's poison took effect much slower. Zhu Zhuqing hadn't been poisoned for long, so it was easy to deal with. Lu Yuan took out a detoxification pill. This was an antidote made by a sage-ranked healing soul master from the Martial Soul Palace. It was more than enough to deal with the poison of a mere 1,000-year blood-winged golden mosquito. After all, although the consequences of the blood-winged golden mosquito's poison were frightening, its poison wasn't difficult to remove. Generally, soul masters who were poisoned could be saved as long as they were treated in time. The blood-winged golden mosquito's most powerful weapon was its mouth parts. They were simply indestructible and specialized in piercing through armor. According to Lu Yuan's estimation, other than the Xuanwu tortoise and the golden armored dragon tortoise that Lu Yuan's second soul ring encountered, no other soul beast could resist the blood-winged golden mosquito's mouth parts. It was precisely because of the blood-winged golden mosquito's powerful mouth parts that it was as famous as the man-faced demon spider, second only to those transcendent soul beasts. After giving Zhu Zhuqing the detoxification pill, Lu Yuan began to clean her wound. After removing the surrounding bloodstains, Lu Yuan used alcohol to clean Zhu Zhuqing's wound. Of course, alcohol was more effective, but it was a pity that the Douluo continent didn't have alcohol. Lu Yuan was busy cleaning the bloodstains around Zhu Zhuqing's wound. Just as he was about to apply medicine, the unconscious Zhu Zhuqing suddenly opened her eyes. Her pitch-black eyes didn't seem to have any warmth as they stared straight at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan pointed to the medicine bottle in his hand and said, "I saw that you fainted, so I was about to apply medicine for you. Since you're awake, you can do it yourself." Seeing the medicine bottle in Lu Yuan's hand, Zhu Zhuqing's eyes flashed with an apologetic look, and the coldness in her eyes eased a lot. Zhu Zhuqing struggled for a while, but only felt that her entire body was sore and weak. She didn't have any strength left, so she could only look at Lu Yuan with her beautiful eyes and speak softly. "You should do it." Her voice was cold, and it seemed to be trembling a little. "Sure." Lu Yuan nodded indifferently. He applied a smear of ointment on his finger and rubbed it on Zhu Zhuqing's wound. As his finger brushed across her skin, Zhu Zhuqing's body trembled slightly. Her pretty face turned red, and even her earlobes were red. This was the first time someone had touched her skin. Zhu Zhuqing's heart was filled with shyness. However, Lu Yuan didn't notice Zhu Zhuqing's abnormality and was still carefully applying the medicine. Chapter 110. Lu Yuan applied the medicine quickly. After applying the medicine, he took out a clean gauze and bandaged Zhu Zhuqing's wound. Then, he pulled down Zhu Zhuqing's short shirt and buttoned up her leather jacket. After this series of actions, it was considered to be over. Lu Yuan put away the ointment and other things. Then, he took out some water and washed his hands. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, who was still lying there, he asked, "How do you feel?" "Much, much better. Thank you." Zhu Zhuqing's cold little face was a little red, but her voice was cold with a hint of shyness. "That's good." Lu Yuan sat down cross-legged and picked up the roasted meat from before. He looked at it and found that it had already cooled down. Cleaning and bandaging Zhu Zhuqing's wound took too much time. The roasted meat was already cold. Lu Yuan frowned and put the roasted meat aside. He took out a new piece of explosive flaming tiger meat, cleaned it, and cut it into small pieces. He used the materials on the ground to make a wooden pot. He put the explosive flaming tiger meat into the pot, added water, and began to stew. On the other side, he used wood to make 2 wooden bowls, a wooden spoon, and 2 pairs of chopsticks. Lu Yuan had no choice. He usually only carried seasonings with him. He didn't carry cooking utensils, bowls, and chopsticks. Actually, it wasn't a big problem because he usually roasted it. However, now that Zhu Zhuqing was here, and he was seriously injured, roasted meat was too oily and wouldn't help him recover from his injuries. Naturally, he couldn't eat it anymore. This was Lu Yuan. Although he didn't like to talk, he had already considered all the situations in his actions. After making the bowls and chopsticks, he washed them with water. At this time, the meat soup in the pot had already boiled. He used a wooden spoon to remove the foam, then added salt and some medicinal herbs to stew it again. Although the explosive flaming tiger meat alone was quite effective, if it was combined with medicinal herbs, the effect would be even better. Zhu Zhuqing had been quietly watching Lu Yuan's actions from the side. There was a trace of gratitude in her eyes, which were originally devoid of life and warmth. Zhu Zhuqing was originally a smart person. She naturally knew that Lu Yuan chose not to eat the barbecued meat, but instead stewed it and added so many medicinal herbs. Naturally, Zhu Zhuqing knew that he was thinking for her. Since she was young, Zhu Zhuqing had never felt the feeling of being cared for by others. The huge duke's mansion only brought her endless coldness and darkness. Her fiancé, whom she had placed all her hopes on, could not withstand the pressure and chose to run away from home. This was undoubtedly a heavy blow to her. She was only 9 years old and had a long future ahead of her. She didn't want to lose her life just like that. She didn't want to die. Therefore, when she heard about the ancient ruins, she immediately chose to enter. As long as she could obtain some opportunities in the ancient ruins, she might have a chance to defeat her sister in the future and take control of her own destiny. Therefore, even though the ruins were filled with danger and there was a slim chance of survival, she did not choose to retreat. However, there were dangers everywhere in the ruins. She had only entered for a short while, but she had already encountered several hundred-year-old beasts. Although she had tried her best to kill them, her arm had been severely injured by them. Today, she had even been targeted by a 1,000-year-old beast. Zhu Zhuqing did not know what kind of soul beast that mosquito was, but it was simply too powerful. She had used almost all of her strength, but her abdomen had still been severely injured by the mosquito. In the end, she could only escape. She was an agility-type soul master, and speed was her advantage. However, even after exhausting all of her soul power, she was still unable to escape from the mosquito's pursuit. Just as she was in despair, the youth in front of her saved her. This youth's strength shocked Zhu Zhuqing. She had used all of her strength, but she was not a match for the mosquito soul beast. She could only flee in a sorry state, but it was actually killed by this person in front of her in a single blow. Although his face was covered, there was an unconcealable aura that flowed out. Zhu Zhuqing, who had received aristocratic etiquette since she was young, knew that this youth in front of her was definitely not simple. Furthermore, she had been hugged twice by this youth in front of her, and her body had even been seen. Zhu Zhuqing's heart was at a loss. She was a conservative person. Although it was to treat her injuries, Zhu Zhuqing could not help but daydream. Furthermore, this person's embrace was indeed very imposing and very comfortable. When she thought back to when Lu Yuan hugged her, and the pleasant smell that came from Lu Yuan's body, Zhu Zhuqing's cheeks flushed red. She could not help but compare this person in front of her with her fiancé. In the end, she realized that they were not even on the same level. No matter how she looked at it, her fiancé was far inferior to this person. I wonder what his appearance is like. Lu Yuan's aura was undoubtedly otherworldly, but girls were undoubtedly more concerned about appearances. Even Zhu Zhuqing was no exception. She was really looking forward to seeing what kind of celestial beauty Lu Yuan had under that gorgeous mask. It's done. Lu Yuan lifted the lid of the pot, and the aroma of stewed meat wafted out. It was mixed with the fragrance of medicinal herbs, and it was especially enticing. Zhu Zhuqing, who had not eaten a drop of rice for a day, could not help but feel her stomach growl when she smelled this aroma. Zhu Zhuqing could not help but blush. Lu Yuan chuckled, making Zhu Zhuqing even more embarrassed. Lu Yuan picked up a wooden spoon, filled a bowl to the brim, and placed it in front of Zhu Zhuqing. Can you get up? Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, who was lying on the side, he asked. Zhu Zhuqing struggled to get up. She felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, and she could not use any strength. She could only helplessly shake her head. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, "Let me help you." Zhu Zhuqing nodded with a red face. Lu Yuan slowly helped Zhu Zhuqing up and let her lean against a tree. Then, he picked up the bowl of meat soup and chopsticks. Eat. Lu Yuan picked up a piece of meat and placed it in front of Zhu Zhuqing's mouth. I'll do it myself, Zhu Zhuqing said softly. Lu Yuan glanced at her indifferently. You still have strength in your hand. Zhu Zhuqing was silent. Her arm was heavily injured, and she could not even lift it up. How could she eat by herself? Don't force yourself. Lu Yuan placed the meat in front of Zhu Zhuqing's mouth again. Zhu Zhuqing did not eat, and only raised her head to look at him. Lu Yuan glanced at Zhu Zhuqing indifferently, and the look in his eyes that allowed no refusal made Zhu Zhuqing's heart skip a beat. Unconsciously, she opened her small cherry mouth and put the piece of tiger meat into her mouth. Lu Yuan nodded slightly, and then picked up another piece of meat. Zhu Zhuqing chewed and swallowed the tiger meat from before, and then took the piece of meat that Lu Yuan handed to her again. Lu Yuan fed her very seriously. Zhu Zhuqing ate while looking at Lu Yuan. This man is really domineering. This was Zhu Zhuqing's opinion of Lu Yuan. However, for some reason, facing Lu Yuan's domineering attitude, Zhu Zhuqing did not feel the slightest bit of revulsion in her heart. One fed, the other ate, and soon the big bowl of meat soup was finished clean. Chapter 111. Zhu Zhuqing ate very cleanly. The broth in the bowl was not wasted at all. She drank all of it. Looking at the trace of broth remaining at the corner of Zhu Zhuqing's mouth, Lu Yuan took out a clean handkerchief and wiped away the grease stain. While wiping away the grease stain, Lu Yuan's fingertips lightly brushed across Zhu Zhuqing's cheek. That strange touch made Zhu Zhuqing's earlobes turn red. Looking at the blushing Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan was somewhat puzzled. What's wrong with this girl? Why does she get shy so easily? Do you want more? Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing and asked indifferently. No, no more, Zhu Zhuqing said softly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded and said, That's good. You're seriously injured, but it's not suitable for you to eat too much. It's not easy to digest. Then you rest first. I've added medicinal herbs to this broth. It'll be good for your recovery. Lu Yuan turned around and put the bowl and chopsticks that Zhu Zhuqing had eaten from aside. Thank you, Zhu Zhuqing said softly. No need. Lu Yuan waved his hand and sat down at the side. He took another bowl, filled it with broth, and started eating. In fact, not only did Zhu Zhuqing not eat, but he also didn't eat. His stomach was already starving. Lu Yuan didn't deliberately slow down his eating speed because Zhu Zhuqing was beside him. Lu Yuan's table manners were naturally very elegant. After all, he had 3 years of BB-Don education. Although he didn't strictly adhere to etiquette, he wouldn't eat without table manners. However, Lu Yuan ate extremely quickly. In a short while, the remaining pot of broth was clean. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but click her tongue at his large appetite. Seeing Zhu Zhuqing staring at him with a strange expression, Lu Yuan frowned and said, "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" "No, no." Zhu Zhuqing shook her head. Lu Yuan didn't pay attention to her. After cleaning up the bowls and chopsticks, he found a clean place to sit down and treat it as a digestion. Zhu Zhuqing had a cold personality and did not like to talk much. Lu Yuan wasn't the kind of person who liked to take the initiative to talk to girls. Of course, Chihiro Snow was an exception, so the atmosphere suddenly became cold. While Zhu Zhuqing was half lying down, she couldn't help but look towards Lu Yuan. She didn't know why, but she couldn't help but want to look at Lu Yuan and see what he was doing. Seeing that Lu Yuan was still sitting and staring blankly at the distant forest, Zhu Zhuqing bit her red lips and hesitated for a long time before saying, "My name is Zhu Zhuqing." "What's your name?" "Zhu Zhuqing?" Lu Yuan's gaze drifted to Zhu Zhuqing's pretty face. Zhu Zhuqing's looks were naturally not bad. With her cold and tender face and hot figure, she was indeed of the highest quality. According to Zhu Zhuqing's looks, although she wasn't as good as Chihiro Snow, she was only a little more immature compared to Hulina. When she reached Hulina's age, she shouldn't be much worse than Hulina. And when it came to seduction, although Zhu Zhuqing wasn't a natural seductress, her figure was extraordinarily hot. Her seduction towards men was not ordinary. When she grew up, she would definitely not be inferior to Hulina. Lu Yuan's impression of Zhu Zhuqing was quite good. This girl's experience was also very tragic. In the original work, she went to Shrek Academy alone to look for Dai Mu Bai, only to see a perverted tiger who only knew how to seek pleasure. One could imagine the disappointment in her heart. Although Dai Mu Bai changed later on, was Zhu Zhuqing really willing to be together with Dai Mu Bai? Not necessarily. Maybe it was more to protect herself. Or maybe it was more because other than Dai Mu Bai, no one else gave her choice. Or maybe this pitiful girl just wanted to live on. Apart from Zhu Zhuqing, almost everyone in Shrek 7 Monsters had more or less problems. They really didn't seem like normal people. Dai Mu Bai, the typical aristocrat, arrogant, and liked to flirt and cause trouble. Oscar, both wretched and dirty. Before he met Ning Rongrong, he was no different from Dai Mu Bai. Tang San, a sect slave. The sect abused him thousands of times, but he treated the sect like his first love. Of course, there weren't any flaws in his character. It was just that his taste was very unique. He didn't like people and only liked sleeping beasts. Was it because it was more exciting? Ma Hongjun, the most disgusting of the 7 monsters. He was lecherous, shameless, and willing to be vulgar. He drooled whenever he saw beautiful women. He didn't have any abilities, but he liked to cause trouble. If not for his good luck, he would have been beaten to death. The only thing worth praising about him was that he was loyal. Xiao Wu, needless to say, she was the weirdest of the 7 monsters because she wasn't even human. Ning Rongrong, the little witch of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, had a serious princess syndrome and was extremely arrogant. It was hard to imagine that these people were the protagonists of the original novel. Also, Shrek Academy's motto was very problematic. It said that those who didn't dare to cause trouble were mediocre people. It was simply bullshit. When they met the Songhui Academy, they were as arrogant as tigers. When they met Dugabo, they all turned into sick cats. They were the typical bullies. Only this stubborn and rebellious girl in front of him, who only wanted to survive. When he read this book in the original world, he had a good impression of Zhu Zhuqing. Now that he was lucky enough to meet her, he might as well lend her a hand. In any case, with the martial Soul Palace's strength, they didn't care about the Zhu family. As for the Star Luo Imperial family, they would be destroyed sooner or later. If they had any ideas, it was none of Lu Yuan's business. Furthermore, Lu Yuan had always wanted to break up Shrek's 7 monsters. Zhu Zhuqing might be a good breakthrough point. If there was one thing that was most important to Shrek's 7 monsters, it would be in 3 simple ways. First, Tang San. He was the soul of Shrek's 7 monsters. He was also the link that connected all of Shrek's 7 monsters. Second, the Netherworld White Tiger. Dai Mu Bai and Zhu Zhuqing's martial soul fusion skill. It was the strongest explosive power of Shrek's 7 monsters. Third, Ning Rongrong. Ning Rongrong's importance was not only because of her auxiliary abilities, but also because of the 7 treasures glazed sect behind her. If not for the 7 treasures glazed sect support, would Tang San's Tang sect have developed so quickly? No. Therefore, to Lu Yuan, he was targeting the latter two. Without the latter two, what kind of storm could Tang San cause with just him alone? As for people like Oscar and Ma Hongjun, sorry, Lu Yuan didn't care about them at all. Without the immortal herb, they were just slightly more talented soul masters. They might not even be comparable to the golden generation. How could they enter Lu Yuan's eyes? Since they were destined to walk different paths from Shrek, they could only destroy it. Now that he had met Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan could boldly announce in advance, Daimu Bai, your future wife is gone. Even the Netherworld White Tiger's martial soul fusion skill has to say goodbye to you. Chapter 112. Lu Yuan's eyes scanned Zhu Zhuqing's body as he pondered, which made Zhu Zhuqing blush. My name is Lu Yuan. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan softly opened his mouth. Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing whispered. What's your current rank? Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but ask. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't be blamed for being presumptuous. She was simply too curious. Zhu Zhuqing was considered a rare genius in the Xianra Empire, but she was only rank 19. The boy in front of her didn't seem much older than her, at most the same age as her fiancé, but he was actually able to easily kill a 1,000-year soul beast. This kind of strength undoubtedly made Zhu Zhuqing envious. After all, if she wanted to break her shackles, she needed to be strong. This was also the reason why she had been diligently cultivating and even entered the ruins. Rank 28, Lu Yuan indifferently said. Rank 28? Zhu Zhuqing was a bit surprised, not because of how high his soul power was, but rather because it was a bit low. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't forget that this youth in front of her didn't even release his martial soul when he killed the mosquito. She originally thought that he should be at least a soul elder, but she didn't expect him to only be a rank 28 soul grandmaster. What isn't a bit too low? Seeing Zhu Zhuqing's somewhat surprised expression, Lu Yuan asked. No, I didn't mean it that way. Zhu Zhuqing hurriedly waved her hand and explained. It's fine, Lu Yuan indifferently said. Seeing that Lu Yuan didn't seem to be angry at her words, Zhu Zhuqing sighed in relief. After a moment of silence, Zhu Zhuqing asked again, how old are you this year? She didn't know why, but when she looked at Lu Yuan, she always wanted to know more. This kind of impulse made her, who was always cold, somewhat unable to suppress it. Are you checking my household registration? Lu Yuan glanced at Zhu Zhuqing with a strange look in his eyes. Did this girl want to get to the bottom of this? No, I didn't mean that. I just wanted to... Zhu Zhuqing wanted to explain, but didn't know how to say it. I'm being presumptuous. If it's inconvenient for you, you don't have to say it. Before Lu Yuan could react, Zhu Zhuqing added another sentence. It's not inconvenient. I'm not much older than you. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing's apologetic look, Lu Yuan was a little amused and said immediately, What? Zhu Zhuqing was truly shocked this time. If Lu Yuan was not much older than her, then wouldn't that mean that Lu Yuan was only 9 years old, or even 10 years old at most? How? How is it possible for him to have a soul power of rank 28 at such a young age? This seemed to have already surpassed the category of a genius. I'm 9 years and 8 months old now, not even 10 years old. How about it? I'm not that much older than you, Lu Yuan said. This. Zhu Zhuqing was shocked. She didn't think that Lu Yuan was really only 9 years old, not even 10 years old. This age was only 5 months older than her, but she was only a rank 19 soul master, while Lu Yuan in front of her was already rank 28. Furthermore, his fighting strength far surpassed those of the same rank. How big was this gap? Zhu Zhuqing's heart was a little discouraged. She originally had some confidence in her cultivation speed, but now, compared to Lu Yuan, it was really the difference between heaven and earth. For a moment, Zhu Zhuqing had a strong admiration for Lu Yuan. He wasn't much older than her, but he already had such strength. This was much stronger than her good-for-nothing fiancé. Because of the environment she had experienced since childhood, Zhu Zhuqing had a kind of obsession with strength that surpassed ordinary people. Naturally, when she met a true prodigy like Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing naturally developed admiration. She even thought that if her fiancé wasn't a good-for-nothing like Dai Mubai, but a prodigy like Lu Yuan, how good would that be? After knowing Lu Yuan's age, Zhu Zhuqing's originally strong desire to explore Lu Yuan became even stronger. How'd he do it? Zhu Zhuqing's heart was full of curiosity. Then you're only 9 years old. How did you grow so tall? Zhu Zhuqing was curious. Lu Yuan's height and his age didn't match. People who didn't know would think that Lu Yuan was 13 or 14 years old when they saw his height. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a trace of smile. He lightly swept his gaze over Zhu Zhuqing's pride and said, "Just like you, I grew a little too fast." Seeing the direction Lu Yuan's gaze swept over, Zhu Zhuqing's face instantly turned red. "Lecture." Then she turned her head away in embarrassment. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and didn't tease her anymore. He crossed his legs and stared blankly into the distance. Zhu Zhuqing secretly turned her head and glanced at Lu Yuan. When she saw that Lu Yuan was in a daze, she heaved a sigh of relief. However, for some reason, not only was she not angry at Lu Yuan's flirting, she even felt a little strange. This was completely different from her attitude towards other men in the past. However, Zhu Zhuqing didn't seem to notice this. After staring blankly for a while, Lu Yuan stood up. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan's actions with some confusion in her eyes. Lu Yuan found an empty space and looked at the surrounding terrain. He nodded, and with a flash of his astral ring, a set of equipment appeared in his hand. He started to get busy. "What are you doing?" Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but ask when she saw that Lu Yuan was busy. However, because his back was facing her, she didn't know what Lu Yuan was doing. "I'm setting up a tent. Didn't you see?" Lu Yuan said indifferently without turning his head. "Oh," Zhu Zhuqing replied indifferently. Looking at the busy Lu Yuan, she wanted to help, but she didn't have any strength. Even standing up was difficult, so she could only look at Lu Yuan quietly. Looking up at the sky, she saw that the sun had already moved to the west and the sky was gradually darkening. It turned out that when Lu Yuan stopped roasting meat, it was already noon. After treating Zhu Zhuqing's wounds and stewing meat for a meal, more than half the time had passed. It was now already past 4 in the afternoon. The sun was about to set, so Lu Yuan needed to hurry up and set up a tent. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if he couldn't see when it was dark. Lu Yuan was very fast. In less than half a cup of tea's time, Lu Yuan had already set up a tent. This tent was prepared by Lu Yuan before he came. It was quite spacious. He had originally planned to use it with Ulina, but he didn't expect that the two of them would be separated. He was too lazy to set it up when he was the only one left. However, Zhu Zhuqing was seriously injured today, and her body was weak. If she slept in the wild, she would easily be attacked by the cold. Therefore, Lu Yuan specially set up this tent. Lu Yuan's agile movements were all seen by Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing could tell that this young man in front of her really had a lot of experience surviving in the wild. She didn't know how he trained, but her curiosity towards Lu Yuan was undoubtedly stronger. Chapter 113. Although she was curious, Zhu Zhuqing only looked at Lu Yuan quietly. She was a woman of few words. Being able to talk so much with Lu Yuan today was already very different from her usual self. Zhu Zhuqing blinked her big, lively eyes. Her pitch-black pupils flashed with a strange light, as if she wanted to swallow Lu Yuan whole. Lu Yuan clapped his hands and looked at the tent in front of him. He was very satisfied with his craftsmanship. It was not in vain that he specially went to learn. Looking at the tent, Lu Yuan walked in front of Zhu Zhuqing and said, "Do you want to see how the tent is? You set it up for me?" Zhu Zhuqing stared at Lu Yuan with her big eyes. "Why? Is there a third person here?" Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing with a smile that was not a smile. "Furthermore, with your current physical condition, I'm afraid that you'll die in less than a night out in the cold and heavy dew outside, Lu Yuan said lightly. You. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing was slightly anxious. Even if it was true, you didn't have to say it out loud. How could this man be so straightforward? Sorry to offend you, Lu Yuan said softly. What? Before Zhu Zhuqing could react, her whole body was carried by Lu Yuan. What are you doing? Zhu Zhuqing struggled violently. Her pair of stubborn eyes stared fiercely at Lu Yuan. Don't move. Lu Yuan glanced at Zhu Zhuqing indifferently. Zhu Zhuqing seemed to be under a spell and instantly calmed down. What are you doing? Men and women should not be so close. Don't mess around. Zhu Zhuqing's beautiful big eyes looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of panic in her eyes. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's forehead flashed a black line. He said snappily, What are you thinking in that little head of yours? I'm just carrying you to the tent. Can you still walk by yourself? Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's face turned red. She stammered, I thought. You thought I was going to go crazy? Lu Yuan was speechless. Did he look like that kind of person? Zhu Zhuqing lowered her head in embarrassment. Lu Yuan shook his head. Why do girls nowadays like to make associations? Was he someone who liked to do this kind of thing so much? If he wanted to, he would have eaten Hulina a long time ago. With Hulina's feelings for him, she would not resist at all. Wasn't Hulina delicious? Aren't they much more attractive than a 9-year-old girl like you? Even if you're willing, Lu Yuan still has to consider it. He was only 9 years old. It was still too early. This kind of thing would take at least a few years. It wouldn't be too late to do it when his body matured. Right now, he didn't have such thoughts. Lu Yuan's face darkened as he carried Zhu Zhuqing towards the tent. Zhu Zhuqing's body was very light. She was so soft and fragile in his arms. Zhu Zhuqing wrapped her arms around Lu Yuan's neck and shrunk her head into Lu Yuan's embrace. She was too embarrassed by the scene just now. He had actually misunderstood. After placing Zhu Zhuqing in the tent, Lu Yuan got up and left the tent. He then walked towards a distance. Where are you going? Looking at Lu Yuan's back, for some reason, Zhu Zhuqing's heart was a little flustered. She unconsciously opened her mouth and asked, I'm going to catch some game for dinner. Lu Yuan didn't look back and waved his hand. Then come back early, Zhu Zhuqing said. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's footsteps paused. Then he started walking again. Knowing that Lu Yuan wouldn't leave, Zhu Zhuqing breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't know why, but a huge sense of fear rose in her heart. She was afraid that Lu Yuan would leave her here alone. It was like a helpless little beast that was afraid that its master would abandon it. Fortunately, Lu Yuan only went to catch a few game. Zhu Zhuqing's heart calmed down a little. The sun gradually set, leaving only a ray of remnant light shining on the earth. Looking at Lu Yuan, who hadn't returned for a long time, Zhu Zhuqing's heart tightened. Could it be that Lu Yuan had an accident? Thinking about it, Zhu Zhuqing shook her head. Lu Yuan's strength was so strong. How could there be any danger? Could it be that he left me here alone? Thinking of this, Zhu Zhuqing's heart was suddenly startled. Zhu Zhuqing blinked her big eyes and carefully looked at the direction Lu Yuan left. She hoped to see the figure in her imagination. The night gradually darkened, but Lu Yuan's figure still didn't appear. Zhu Zhuqing felt sour in her heart, and her eyes seemed to have lost their luster. Was she abandoned again? Why did she seem sadder this time than when she knew that Dai Mubai had run away from home? Zhu Zhuqing's heart was somewhat puzzled. Her firm heart seemed to have collapsed. A trace of tears appeared in the corner of her eyes. It seemed that she was going to be abandoned after all. Zhu Zhuqing only felt disheartened. When she was about to withdraw her gaze, a familiar figure came into her sight. Although the night was a little dark, Lu Yuan's figure was completely seen by Zhu Zhuqing. You're back. Looking at Lu Yuan's figure gradually walking in front of her, Zhu Zhuqing's heart was full of joy. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she only said these 4 words. Lu Yuan nodded and said, You've been waiting for a long time. I just found a river and caught a few fish. It was delayed a little, so I came back late. Lu Yuan raised the fish skewered with watergrass in his hand and said, "I think you should like to eat this." Zhu Zhuqing's heart was in turmoil. She didn't know what to say. She could only nod vigorously. "It's good that you like it," Lu Yuan said lightly. He put away the fish in his hand. Taking advantage of the fact that the sky hadn't completely darkened, he quickly began to boil fish soup. Boiling fish soup was much faster than stewing meat. It was also paired with medicinal herbs. Compared to meat soup, it had a better nourishing effect. He roasted some dry food and coupled it with the fish soup. Dinner could be dealt with. Similarly, dinner was personally fed by Lu Yuan. Speaking of which, Zhu Zhuqing's treatment wasn't low. In his previous life, this was the first time Lu Yuan fed a girl. Even Chihiro Snow and Hulina didn't have this treatment. Instead, Zhu Zhuqing, who he had just met not long ago, enjoyed it. "Is it good?" Lu Yuan asked as he fed Zhu Zhuqing a mouthful of fish soup. "It's good." Zhu Zhuqing nodded. She was still as taciturn as before. "Then eat more." Lu Yuan fed her another mouthful. Zhu Zhuqing swallowed the fish soup in one gulp. Her beautiful eyes sized up Lu Yuan. Although Lu Yuan's face was still wearing a mask, Zhu Zhuqing felt that the young man in front of her must be very good-looking. This was Zhu Zhuqing's intuition as a girl. Lu Yuan fed her very seriously. Or it could be said that as long as Lu Yuan decided to do something, he would be very serious. Zhu Zhuqing also looked very seriously. She felt that the young man in front of her really had a special kind of charm. It made people unconsciously want to get close to him, especially when he had a serious expression when feeding her. It made Zhu Zhuqing's heart beat unconsciously. For as long as she could remember, this was the first time someone had fed her so seriously. This feeling of being cared for was really good. Chapter 114. Zhu Zhuqing really enjoyed the feeling of being cared for. Her pair of cold eyes flashed with a gentle light. But ironically, this kind of care didn't come from her family, nor did it come from her fiancé, Dai Mu Bai. It came from a young man whom she had known for less than a day. Although Zhu Zhuqing had only just met Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing had a feeling that the two of them had known each other for a long time. There was a tacit understanding between the two of them. Lu Yuan fed her half a bowl of fish soup and took out some cooked rations. He said, "Fish soup can't fill your stomach. Eat some rations. Make do with it tonight. I'll make something delicious for you tomorrow." "It's already very good," Zhu Zhuqing said as she looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan nodded gently. He broke off a piece of the rations and put it in front of Zhu Zhuqing's mouth. Zhu Zhuqing hesitated for a moment. Her red lips gently put the rations into her mouth. But it was inevitable that there would be some accidents when eating. In a moment of carelessness, the tip of Zhu Zhuqing's tongue lightly brushed across Lu Yuan's fingertips. A wonderful feeling made the two of them tremble at the same time. Lu Yuan's skin had always been very thick. He took back his hand as if nothing had happened. He gently broke off another piece and put it in front of Zhu Zhuqing's mouth. Zhu Zhuqing, on the other hand, was so embarrassed that even her earlobes were red. Her skin was already very thin, and what happened just now made her heart beat even faster. Looking at the rations that Lu Yuan put in front of her mouth, Zhu Zhuqing was a little embarrassed. Seeing that Zhu Zhuqing didn't respond, Lu Yuan didn't urge her. He just looked at Zhu Zhuqing quietly. Looking at Lu Yuan's calm and clear eyes, Zhu Zhuqing's heart trembled. She unconsciously opened her small cherry mouth and ate again. Very quickly, Zhu Zhuqing finished a piece of dry food. The rations were originally a little choking. After feeding her the rations, Lu Yuan fed Zhu Zhuqing the remaining half a bowl of fish soup. With the delicious fish soup, it could alleviate the dryness brought by the rations. After finishing the fish soup, Lu Yuan habitually picked up a clean handkerchief and wiped the grease from the corner of Zhu Zhuqing's lips. "Do you often feed others?" Looking at Lu Yuan's actions, for some reason, Zhu Zhuqing suddenly asked. Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing strangely, shook his head and said, "You're the first." "Really?" Hearing Lu Yuan's answer, Zhu Zhuqing's heart couldn't help but surge with surprise. Of course, how can this thing be fake? Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing with a strange expression. What was this little girl thinking? Oh, Zhu Zhuqing nodded faintly, but her tone carried a trace of joy that even she herself didn't notice. Do you want more? Lu Yuan asked softly. Zhu Zhuqing shook her head. Her appetite had never been big. Lu Yuan nodded and put away the bowl and chopsticks. Then you should rest first. After Zhu Zhuqing finished her dinner, it was naturally his turn to eat. After finishing his dinner like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, Lu Yuan cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks before extinguishing the remaining flames. At this time, the sky was already completely dark. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing in the tent, Lu Yuan stood up and walked outside. Where are you going? Seeing Lu Yuan walk away, the panic in Zhu Zhuqing's heart unconsciously rose as she asked softly, I'm going to scatter some medicinal powder in the surroundings to avoid snakes and insects. There are many poisonous insects in this forest, so you have to be careful. Also, we just ate, and the aroma of the food hasn't dissipated yet. These need to be taken care of, or else it will attract the attention of soul beasts. Lu Yuan's voice sounded. Oh. Zhu Zhuqing nodded lightly. In the dusk, she watched Lu Yuan's figure busying himself. Zhu Zhuqing's heart had a rare sense of stability. Beside this youth who she had only known for a short time, she felt a sense of security that she had never felt before. It was as if as long as he was around, she didn't have to worry about anything. Lu Yuan scattered the medicinal powder and buried the fish bones that he had eaten earlier in the ground. He clapped his hands and was finally done. There was no lack of soul beasts with an outstanding sense of smell in this forest. If the food residue wasn't taken care of properly, it would be easily discovered by those soul beasts. This was something that Lu Yuan had deeply experienced after staying in this forest for 2 days. After he was done, Lu Yuan returned to the outside of the tent and sat cross-legged on a rock, deep in thought. The sky became increasingly dark, and the entire forest slowly quieted down. The soul beasts during the day had already returned to their nests, and some of the nocturnal soul beasts were slowly starting to move out. Although the sky was dark, soul masters like Zhu Zhuqing and Lu Yuan could still see each other clearly in this environment if they weren't too far apart. Zhu Zhuqing was half lying down, but her beautiful eyes were looking at Lu Yuan outside. Her eyes revealed a trace of struggle. Lu Yuan. Zhu Zhuqing bit her red lips, as if she had made a decision, and softly shouted, Is something the matter? Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing strangely. It's already dark, and it's very cold outside. You should go into the tent and rest. Zhu Zhuqing's voice was as soft as a mosquito's, but Lu Yuan, whose spiritual sense was far superior to that of ordinary people, could hear it clearly. Are you sure? Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing in disbelief. This didn't seem like something that the shy and conservative Zhu Zhuqing would do. A single man and a single woman. If news of this spread, it wouldn't be good for Zhu Zhuqing's reputation. After all, not everyone was like Hulina. He and Hulina were fellow disciples, and they were still young. If news of them sleeping together spread, it wouldn't be a problem. Everyone would just think that they had a deep relationship. However, Zhu Zhuqing was engaged. If news of her sleeping in the same tent as a stranger leaked out, it would be a huge blow to Zhu Zhuqing's reputation. Lu Yuan wanted to target Tang San and Dai Mu Bai, but he didn't have any ill feelings towards Zhu Zhuqing. Even if he wanted to destroy Dai Mu Bai and Zhu Zhuqing's relationship, he wanted to put the blame on Dai Mu Bai. After all, Dai Mu Bai had been hanging around brothels. This was an undeniable fact. Therefore, even though Lu Yuan knew that sharing a tent with Zhu Zhuqing could deepen their relationship, he didn't do it. This was because it was too disgraceful, and Lu Yuan didn't want to do it. He had plenty of ways to move Zhu Zhuqing, and he didn't need to use such a low-level method. However, he didn't expect Zhu Zhuqing to take the initiative to suggest it. What was this girl thinking in her heart? Lu Yuan was a little puzzled, but he still chose to refuse. No need. I'll stay outside. You have a good rest. Oh, Zhu Zhuqing responded softly, but did not bring up this idea again. That sentence just now had actually exhausted all of her courage. She was originally a shy person, and under her cold appearance, there was actually a simple and shy heart hidden. Zhu Zhuqing laid in the tent, but her eyes looked at Lu Yuan from time to time. The coldness in her big black eyes had long disappeared, leaving behind a trace of confusion and helplessness. Chapter 115. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing didn't go anywhere. They stayed at the same place because Zhu Zhuqing's injuries were too severe. She couldn't move at all. Only after 3 full days did she manage to barely move. Lu Yuan kept the tent in his astral ring. Today was already the 4th day. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, who was still a little pale, Lu Yuan asked, "How is it? Can you walk?" Zhu Zhuqing nodded and said, "It's okay. If the distance isn't too long, I should be able to last for a while." "That's good." Lu Yuan said, "At most, we can walk for a while and rest for a while. Don't rush for too long every day. It shouldn't be too big of a problem." "I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I've delayed you for so long." Zhu Zhuqing's cold little face had a trace of apology. "What are you talking about? We're friends, aren't we?" Lu Yuan said. Hearing this, a rare smile appeared on Zhu Zhuqing's cold and elegant face. It was as if the ice and snow had melted, and the spring breeze had blown over the earth. It was truly beautiful. Lu Yuan was used to seeing beauties. Chihiro Snow, Hulina, and Bibi Dawn were all rare beauties. Each of them could be said to be peerless, so Lu Yuan had a very strong resistance to beautiful women. However, Zhu Zhuqing's smile actually gave Lu Yuan a breathtaking feeling. This scene of an ice beauty blooming with a smile was really something that ordinary people couldn't resist. Looking at the sun on the horizon, Lu Yuan said, "Then let's set off?" Zhu Zhuqing nodded. Lu Yuan held the astonishing spear in his hand and opened the path in front. Zhu Zhuqing followed closely behind him. The two of them didn't advance very quickly. After all, Zhu Zhuqing's injuries hadn't healed, so she naturally couldn't increase her speed. The dangers in the forest weren't for nothing. Not long after they left, another 100-year soul beast attacked. In the end, it was killed by Lu Yuan's spear. Roar! A tiger's roar came. Lu Yuan's eyes suddenly focused. He gripped the spear in his hand tightly and said with a solemn expression, "Zhuqing, follow me closely. Don't fall behind." "Yes." Zhu Zhuqing hummed softly. She wasn't angry at Lu Yuan for calling her Zhuqing. In fact, in the past 3 days, under Lu Yuan's care, the relationship between the two had become much closer, especially when Lu Yuan had seen Zhu Zhuqing's abdomen when he was changing her bandages. Such intimate contact was unforgettable for the reserved and conservative Zhu Zhuqing. In Zhu Zhuqing's heart, Lu Yuan's position was somewhat special. He was not just a simple friend. Moreover, Zhu Zhuqing didn't seem to reject Lu Yuan's closeness to her. When she was being chased by the blood-winged golden mosquitoes and was in despair, Lu Yuan appeared in front of her like a god and saved her. To the 9-year-old Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan was like a ray of light that was firmly engraved in her heart. No matter how precocious and stubborn Zhu Zhuqing was, she was still a girl. Furthermore, she was only a 9-year-old girl. In this dangerous forest, she had met Lu Yuan. At the same time, he was a youth with great strength and an excellent temperament. Zhu Zhuqing had unconsciously developed a dependence on him. It was just that she hadn't realized it yet. Zhu Zhuqing followed behind Lu Yuan. She stared at Lu Yuan's broad back and asked, "What kind of soul beast was that?" Lu Yuan felt the power contained in the roar just now. He secretly estimated and said, "Judging from its voice, it should be a tiger-type soul beast." Its voice carried a majestic aura. Its cultivation should be above 1,000-year. A 1,000-year tiger-type soul beast? Zhu Zhuqing's brows furrowed. A soul beast of this level wasn't easy to deal with. "Don't be afraid. Just leave it to me." Lu Yuan seemed to have sensed Zhu Zhuqing's thoughts and said, Be careful." Zhu Zhuqing replied softly, "It's fine. It's just a small problem." Lu Yuan held the world-shaking spear and said in a relaxed tone, "It's coming." Lu Yuan's gaze focused. He felt the power coming closer and closer, and a golden light flashed in his right hand. Patches of weeds were pushed aside, and a purplish-black figure appeared in front of Lu Yuan. Its body was emitting streaks of purplish-blue lightning. 1,000-year thunder spirit tiger. Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. Zhu Qing, there's a way to treat your injuries. Lu Yuan's right foot stomped on the ground, and a small hole appeared where his foot landed. Then, his figure burst out. In midair, Lu Yuan completed his martial soul possession. His golden dragon martial soul instantly took over his body. Golden light sprinkled down, and diamond-shaped golden scales climbed up both sides of Lu Yuan's face. His arms turned into dragon claws, and 2 soul rings, one yellow and one purple, emitted a dazzling light. His second soul ring is 1,000-year. Zhu Zhuqing's heart trembled when she saw Lu Yuan's shining purple soul ring. How is this possible? Furthermore, the pressure from Lu Yuan's martial soul caused the netherworld civet in Zhu Zhuqing's body to tremble. This was the suppression of a high-rank martial soul over a low-rank martial soul. This suppression was much stronger than that of the Xianra Empire's white tiger martial soul. For a moment, Zhu Zhuqing's curiosity about Lu Yuan grew. How'd he do it? Die, you bastard! Lu Yuan's first soul ring suddenly lit up. First soul skill, Golden Dragon Fist. Roar! The 1,000-year thunder spirit tiger let out a low roar, and a bluish-purple ball of light shot out from its mouth. Lu Yuan didn't dodge. He pushed aside the ball of light with his spear and stabbed the thunder spirit tiger with the tip of his spear. The thunder spirit tiger wasn't willing to be outdone. It opened its bloody mouth and pounced towards Lu Yuan with its purplish-black body. Zhu Zhuqing's heart skipped a beat when she saw the man and tiger preparing to fight head-on. Lu Yuan was too reckless to fight a soul beast head-on. Lu Yuan, be careful. Zhu Zhuqing was anxious when she saw the man and tiger approaching. She was afraid that something would happen to Lu Yuan. However, Lu Yuan and the Thunder Spirit Tiger were too fast. Before Zhu Zhuqing could finish her sentence, they had already collided. Oh, a mournful tiger roar sounded. The Thunder Spirit Tiger's huge body was sent flying by Lu Yuan's attack. There was a hideous wound on the tiger's body. In a head-on collision, Lu Yuan had gained the upper hand. Who was the soul beast here? Zhu Zhuqing was a little confused. Azure Dragon explores the sea. Lu Yuan's attacks had always been fierce. The moment the Thunder Spirit Tiger landed on the ground, before it could stand up, Lu Yuan's spear had already arrived. Die! The startling world spear pierced through the Thunder Spirit Tiger's throat and into its brain. This time, the 1,000-year Thunder Spirit Tiger didn't even have the chance to struggle before it died at the hands of Lu Yuan. Zhu Qing, what did you say to be careful of? Lu Yuan turned around and asked. A light breeze blew, and his clothes fluttered. Zhu Zhuqing wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Lu Yuan's shout. Zhu Qing, be careful. Be careful of what? Before Zhu Zhuqing could react, a blood-red vine wrapped around Zhu Zhuqing tightly and dragged her to the left side of the forest. Chapter 116. You're courting death. Lu Yuan bellowed. He activated the Phoenix Dance 6 illusions and rushed towards the direction where Zhu Zhuqing was being dragged away like the wind. Lu Yuan was extremely fast and arrived in an instant. He saw that Zhu Zhuqing was tied up by a blood-red vine, dragging a long trail on the ground. Her originally cold little face was wrinkled. It was obvious that she was in a lot of pain. Lu Yuan was furious. He threw the world-shaking spear in his hand. Got it. The world-shaking spear cut the blood-red vine in half. The cut vine dripped with blood-red juice, and Zhu Zhuqing's body stopped. Lu Yuan tiptoed and quickly came to Zhu Zhuqing's side. He tore off all the vines on her body and held her in his arms. Zhu Qing, are you okay? Lu Yuan asked softly. Zhu Zhuqing frowned, but slowly shook her head. Seeing this, Lu Yuan frowned. She was in so much pain, but she was still trying to be brave. Let me see, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Don't. Before Zhu Zhuqing finished speaking, Lu Yuan had already checked Zhu Zhuqing's injuries. Her arm, which had already recovered slightly, was bound by the blood-red vine. The wound that had already formed a scab broke open again, and blood seeped out. Her abdomen was the same. The blood that seeped out dyed Zhu Zhuqing's clothes red. In addition to old injuries, there were new ones. Zhu Zhuqing's leather clothes were already worn out after such a long distance on the ground. Her snow-white skin was covered in wounds and dripping with blood. Even when Zhu Zhuqing was in Lu Yuan's arms, the blood that seeped out dyed Lu Yuan's white clothes red. Seeing that Lu Yuan was looking at her smooth back, Zhu Zhuqing's pale face flushed red. It was because she was shy. This was the second time Lu Yuan saw her body. Lu Yuan didn't think too much. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing's bloody back, his heart burned with anger. "You call this fine?" Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing and said indifferently. Facing Lu Yuan's gaze, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but lower her head. He didn't blame Zhu Zhuqing. After all, Lu Yuan knew that Zhu Zhuqing was stubborn. His left hand held Zhu Zhuqing's waist, and his right hand held the spear tightly. His eyes were full of murderous intent. "Hold me tight." Looking at the blood-colored vines bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws in the distance, Lu Yuan said softly, but his tone carried an undeniable meaning. For some reason, in front of Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing, who had always been stubborn, was like an obedient kitten. She wrapped her arms around Lu Yuan's neck. "Thousand-year bloodthirsty demon vine? Just nice, I'll start with you." Golden light flashed as the clear chi scripture began to circulate. The golden light enveloped Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing's figure. Second soul skill, Golden Dragon War Body. The purple soul ring lit up. The Golden Dragon's second soul skill, Golden Dragon War Body, increased defense by 200% and made one immune to all control-type skills. Golden Dragon Battle Armor. Lu Yuan shouted again. The golden armor covered his entire body. Not only did it wrap around Lu Yuan, but it also extended to wrap around Zhu Zhuqing. The Golden Dragon Battle Armor was an external soul bone from the Super Soul Beast, Golden Armor Imperial Dragon Turtle. Using the Golden Dragon War Body and Golden Dragon Battle Armor at the same time represented Lu Yuan's full strength. Ever since he obtained the Golden Dragon Battle Armor, Lu Yuan hadn't truly tested his strength. Today, it was a good time to test his strength. What a strong aura! In Lu Yuan's arms, Zhu Zhuqing felt the pressure and powerful aura coming from Lu Yuan's body. Her beautiful eyes flickered with extraordinary splendor. Zhu Zhuqing had never felt such an aura from her family's soul ancestor, and Lu Yuan was only a soul grandmaster. Genius. This was a true, peerless genius. Moreover, this man is really overbearing. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but mutter in her heart when she thought of Lu Yuan's tone. However, she didn't feel the slightest bit angry. Instead, she seemed to like it very much. This was Zhu Zhuqing. She didn't like men who only knew how to curry favor with girls. Instead, she admired men who were decisive, overbearing, and had a kind of male chauvinism. Perhaps this was related to the environment Zhu Zhuqing grew up in. She worshipped the strong. Bang! This was the sound of Lu Yuan's right foot coming into contact with the ground. When his right foot stepped down, a large hole suddenly appeared in the ground. Originally, Lu Yuan's strength in his normal state had already reached 9,000 kilograms. Now that his martial soul was attached to his body and he was using the Golden Dragon Battle Armor, his strength had already exceeded 10,000 kilograms. Even for a soul ancestor, 10,000 kilograms of strength was a fatal threat. Swish! Lu Yuan's figure was like an unsheathed sword, incomparably fast. Zhu Zhuqing was in Lu Yuan's arms. With the protection of the soul power emitted by the clear air scripture, not even the slightest breeze blew on her. The blood-colored vines covered the sky as they surged over. The bloodthirsty demon vine was considered to be at the top of the plant-type soul beasts. It was many times more powerful than the ghost vine that Tang San's second soul ring had hunted. Not only did it have the ability to parasitize, every seed it released could also absorb the soul power and even the blood of the host. The bloodthirsty demon vine. From its name, one could tell that this plant could absorb the blood of soul beasts or soul masters. Furthermore, the bloodthirsty demon vine had a type of blood poison that could invade the blood of living creatures, causing the blood to coagulate and destroy the organs of the body. It was a huge threat to humans. It was also because of this that the bloodthirsty demon vine could be called a top-tier plant-type soul beast. This was why Lu Yuan was so angry just now. This was because other than the fresh blood from the friction on Zhu Zhuqing's body, some of the bloodthirsty demon vine's blood poison had also invaded her body. It was just that the amount was relatively small and hadn't acted up yet. However, if this continued for a long time, it would have a huge impact on Zhu Zhuqing's life. Seeing Lu Yuan's figure rushing over, the blood-colored vines wrapped around Lu Yuan. Bind. This was a skill that almost every plant-type soul beast possessed. However, it was useless against Lu Yuan. This was because the effect of the Golden Dragon War body made him immune to all control-type skills. Bang, bang, bang. Every single blood-colored vine shattered into pieces the moment it came into contact with Lu Yuan. Not a single strand could touch Lu Yuan. Zhu Zhuqing, who was in Lu Yuan's arms, couldn't help but open her mouth wide. Of course, with Lu Yuan's soul power and the double protection of the Golden Dragon War armor, Zhu Zhuqing wasn't in any danger at all. Seeing that its vines had no effect on Lu Yuan, the bloodthirsty demon vine went all out. A large number of vines instantly broke apart, and the juice inside turned into a blood-colored mist that enveloped Lu Yuan. This blood-colored mist contained the bloodthirsty demon vine's blood poison. It could enter the human body through the pores and enter the bloodstream, causing damage. However, this was naturally useless against Lu Yuan. One of the effects of the Golden Dragon War armor was that it was immune to all negative effects, and poison was one of them. Puchi. This was the sound of the spear tip piercing into the bloodthirsty demon vine's body. Under Lu Yuan's intense attack, 1,000-year soul beast, the bloodthirsty demon vine, had died. Chapter 117. As a top-tier plant-type soul beast, the bloodthirsty demon vine was much more difficult to deal with than the 1,000-year thunder spiritual tiger from before. Even a soul ancestor might not be able to defeat it in a one-on-one fight and might even die. After all, the bloodthirsty demon vine's methods were too strange. Unfortunately, it met Lu Yuan, the nemesis of control-type soul masters. Not only was he immune to control skills, he was also immune to negative effects. The bloodthirsty demon vine's strengths were control and poison, so it was completely countered and died under Lu Yuan's spear. But on the other hand, it wasn't unjust for the bloodthirsty demon vine to die at the hands of Lu Yuan when he went all out. After all, not every 1,000-year soul beast could receive such treatment. Lu Yuan pulled out the world-shaking spear, and in front of him was the already dead bloodthirsty demon vine. After dispersing his soul power and martial soul, Lu Yuan gently exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Using his second soul skill and golden dragon armor consecutively was not a small burden even for Lu Yuan. The simple battle just now had consumed at least 30% of his soul power. One had to know that he cultivated the clear air scripture. Not only was his soul power denser than others of the same rank, but its quality was also higher. Even so, he still consumed 30% of his soul power. One could imagine that Lu Yuan had really gone all out just now. Furthermore, the Golden Dragon Armor's external soul bone was really a big deal. Of course, it was also related to Zhu Zhuqing in his arms. After all, he had used a portion of his soul power to protect Zhu Zhuqing. This was also a consumption. It's over. Zhu Zhuqing stared at Lu Yuan in a daze. Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile and say, "It's over." The bloodthirsty demon vine was already dead, but there were still some things that hadn't been taken. As a special top-tier plant-type soul beast, every bloodthirsty demon vine would produce a unique product when it reached 100 years of cultivation. This item was a great supplement for soul masters and could replenish their blood and strengthen their physique. It was a rare cultivation resource. Lu Yuan's spear tip flicked slightly at the bloodthirsty demon vine's remains, and a blood-red crystal flew out. The world-shaking spear disappeared with a flash of light, and Lu Yuan's right hand gently caught the crystal. Is this a soul bone? It doesn't look like it to me. Zhu Zhuqing was still lying in Lu Yuan's arms as she looked at the blood-colored crystal in Lu Yuan's hand. This isn't a soul bone, it's a blood crystal, Lu Yuan said. Blood crystal? Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. What's a blood crystal? Lu Yuan said softly. The blood crystal is a special product of the demonic bloodthirsty vine. When every demonic bloodthirsty vine reaches 100 years of cultivation, it will produce a blood crystal near its roots. The older it is, the bigger the blood crystal. Judging from the size of this blood crystal, the demonic bloodthirsty vine we just saw should be at least 1,500 years old. What is the use of this blood crystal? Huh? Lu Yuan glanced at Zhu Zhuqing and suddenly chuckled. What are you laughing at? Zhu Zhuqing's cold little face frowned slightly. Was her question so funny? It's nothing. I'm just happy for you. Lu Yuan stopped smiling and said, Happy for me? Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan with a hint of bitterness in her eyes. She was already so injured, but this man could still laugh and be happy for her. Zhu Zhuqing didn't know why, but she really wanted to beat this man in front of her up. Seeing Zhu Zhuqing's eyes, Lu Yuan knew that Zhu Zhuqing had misunderstood. He immediately said, This blood crystal is actually the essence of the demonic bloodthirsty vine. The demonic bloodthirsty vine likes to devour the blood of living creatures to increase its cultivation. This blood crystal is the amalgamation of the blood essence. Not only does it greatly increase one's blood essence, but it can also strengthen one's physique. For a soul master like you who is seriously injured and lacking in blood essence, it can recover your blood essence in an extremely short period of time. Furthermore, the blood crystal can cure the demonic bloodthirsty vine's blood poison. Don't you think this is a surprise for you? Lu Yuan said with a smile. You're saying that this blood crystal is good for my injuries? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Yes. With this blood crystal, your injuries will basically be healed in 3 days. Lu Yuan said. Really? Zhu Zhuqing's eyes widened, and there was a hint of joy in her voice. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded affirmatively and said, When we return, I'll make a pot of tiger bone soup with this blood crystal and the bones of the 1,000-year thunder spirit tiger. It will definitely have a miraculous effect on your injuries. As he spoke, he put the blood crystal into his astral ring. His left hand was still hugging Zhu Zhuqing's waist as he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and quickly rushed back. The 1,000-year thunder spirit tiger's corpse was still there. Lu Yuan waved his hand and put it away. He said to Zhu Zhuqing, A battle just happened here, and it will attract a lot of soul beasts. Let's go somewhere else. Zhu Zhuqing nodded her small head and curled up in Lu Yuan's embrace, allowing Lu Yuan to carry her as they ran through the forest. Lu Yuan tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and executed the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions to its fullest extent. With the help of a thin branch, he was able to soar into the sky again, causing Zhu Zhuqing, who was in his embrace, to widen her eyes. Was this still the same Lu Yuan who only knew how to be reckless? His speed was much faster than an agility-type soul master like her. Furthermore, Lu Yuan's footwork was very strange. Although Zhu Zhuqing didn't know what kind of footwork it wasn't difficult for her to see its profoundness. After running for a long time, Lu Yuan chose a relatively open area and stopped. After clearing a large piece of the ground, Lu Yuan helped Zhu Zhuqing to sit down. After all, Zhu Zhuqing's abdomen and back were injured, so she couldn't lie down or lie down. Thinking about it, it was really quite sad. Sorry for the offense. Lu Yuan took off Zhu Zhuqing's leather clothes. With such friction, the leather clothes couldn't be worn anymore. Zhu Zhuqing felt Lu Yuan's hands moving across her body, and her cheeks were already flushed red. After taking off Zhu Zhuqing's leather clothes, Lu Yuan looked at the injuries on her arms. He treated the ruptured wounds again, then replaced them with gauze and wrapped them up. Next was the wound on her abdomen. He unwrapped the gauze layer by layer, washed it again, applied new medicine, and wrapped it up again. In the end, only Zhu Zhuqing's back was left. Cough, cough, take off this inner shirt too. Lu Yuan coughed and said embarrassedly. The clothes on Zhu Zhuqing's back were stuck to the wound and had already become bloodstains. Not only did it need to be cleaned and bandaged, but she also needed to change into a new inner shirt. Moreover, the wound was inside the clothes, so there was no way to apply medicine through the clothes. Zhu Zhuqing bit her red lips, and her pair of dark eyes stared at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan met Zhu Zhuqing's eyes, his gaze calm and clear. Will you take responsibility for me? Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan quietly. If she took off her inner shirt, her body would be seen by Lu Yuan. As a girl, Zhu Zhuqing could not care. Moreover, she was originally an extremely conservative person. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's gaze became serious. If you're willing, I can. He was always responsible for what he did. I don't believe you. Zhu Zhuqing shook her head lightly. Why? Lu Yuan asked. Zhu Zhuqing said, I don't believe a person who doesn't even dare to show his true face. Hearing this, Lu Yuan was stunned. Immediately, his right hand gently touched his cheek and gently took off the mask. Chapter 118. The golden mask was taken off, revealing an almost flawless face. He had sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. His facial features were extremely three-dimensional. His fair face carried a trace of coldness. His entire person exuded an aura like that of a banished immortal. Handsome. This was Zhu Zhuqing's first thought. The young man in front of her was really too handsome. His eyes were deep and sparkling, as bright as the stars in the sky. They exuded a mysterious aura, making people unconsciously sink into them, especially that cold and aloof aura of a banished immortal. It made him look like an immortal from the ninth heaven looking down at the foolish mortals. He was high and mighty, sacred and inviolable. Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing's appearance, Lu Yuan smiled. In an instant, it was as if a ray of sunshine had shone in the winter, warming Zhu Zhuqing's entire heart. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared at Lu Yuan, unwilling to leave for even a moment. Why, do you believe me now? Lu Yuan asked softly. I believe. Zhu Zhuqing nodded gently and said, but I'm a little scared. Scared? Scared of what? Lu Yuan was a little puzzled. You're too good-looking. You'll tame a lot of girls. Zhu Zhuqing said very seriously. Lu Yuan couldn't help but be stunned. These words were not wrong. From Chihiro Snow to Hulina, if Zhu Zhuqing was counted, there would already be 3. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan was shocked. It seemed that he had to be more honest in the future and not provoke more girls. You're right. Lu Yuan stroked his cheek and sighed slightly. Alas, this damned charm. There was no shame in his tone. It was rare to see someone with such thick skin. You. Zhu Zhuqing saw Lu Yuan's appearance and was a little stunned. There was such a person in the world who didn't know what modesty was. What's wrong? Lu Yuan smiled and said. Seeing this, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but tilt her head slightly. The lethality of Lu Yuan's smile was too great. Not only did Lu Yuan have the temperament of a banished immortal, but his jade-like face also had a masculine aura unique to men. It was this masculine aura that made Lu Yuan's charm even deeper. If one were to rank the men and women of the Douluo continent in terms of their attractiveness, then Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow would undoubtedly be at the top of the list. If Chihiro Snow was the #1 beauty on the Douluo continent, then Lu Yuan was the #1 handsome man on the Douluo continent. How attractive Chihiro Snow was to men was how attractive Lu Yuan was to women. Take it off. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan said softly. Zhu Zhuqing bit her red lips and looked at Lu Yuan without saying a word. Don't worry, I will take responsibility. I swear on my martial soul, Lu Yuan said. A martial soul oath was the most vicious oath in the Douluo continent. After all, The martial soul was the foundation of everyone's cultivation in the Douluo continent. Zhu Zhuqing believed him. She slightly closed her beautiful eyes, and there was a struggle on her face. After a long time, she said softly, "You do it. I don't have much strength." "All right." Lu Yuan nodded. He gently pulled his belt and unbuttoned Zhu Zhuqing's inner shirt. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing was only left with a corset on her chest. Seeing Zhu Zhuqing's current appearance and her pride, Lu Yuan took a deep breath and circulated the clear Qi scripture. His eyes were clear. Gently taking off her inner shirt, Lu Yuan took a step forward with a medicine bottle in his hand. Turning to Zhu Zhuqing's back, Lu Yuan prepared to clean Zhu Zhuqing's wounds. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing's cold voice sounded, "What if I didn't agree? Then I would still insist on applying medicine for you. Aren't you worried that I would resist?" Zhu Zhuqing asked. "You can't resist." Lu Yuan's tone was indifferent. "Don't tell me you still want to force me?" Zhu Zhuqing asked. "Of course," Lu Yuan said softly. "If this wound is not treated properly, your life will be gone. I have saved you so many times. How can I let you die like this? You have to know." At this point, Lu Yuan paused for a moment. "From now on, your life is not only yours, but also mine." Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's body trembled slightly. After a long time, she said, "There is one thing that I think I should tell you." "What is it?" Lu Yuan's hand, that was cleaning the wound, paused. "I have a marriage contract," Zhu Zhuqing said. "Oh," Lu Yuan responded and continued to clean the wound. "Oh, what do you mean?" Zhu Zhuqing asked. "Isn't it just a marriage contract? It's just a small matter. Can't you just cancel it?" Lu Yuan said nonchalantly. "I am the second daughter of the Zhu family of the Xianra Empire's Netherworld Duke. My fiancé is the third prince of the Star Luo imperial family, Daimu Bai." Zhu Zhuqing's voice trembled slightly. "Oh," Lu Yuan replied with the same, "Oh. What do you owe about again?" Zhu Zhuqing asked. "Well, I mean, so what?" Lu Yuan said. "Aren't you afraid?" "Why should I be afraid?" Lu Yuan asked. Zhu Zhuqing was stunned and said, "My fiancé is a member of the imperial family. Our family has been married to the Star Luo imperial family for generations. My marriage contract can't be canceled." At this point, two streams of tears flowed from the corners of Zhu Zhuqing's eyes. This was her sorrow. "Are you crying?" Lu Yuan asked. "I'm not." Zhu Zhuqing shook her head lightly. Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Don't worry. There is no marriage contract in this world that can't be canceled. Leave it to me." "Then what are you going to do?" Zhu Zhuqing asked. "Of course I'm going to visit them. The imperial family won't agree." Zhu Zhuqing said. "Then we'll just destroy them," Lu Yuan said. "Are you serious?" Zhu Zhuqing turned around and looked at Lu Yuan with a strange look in her eyes. She looked at Lu Yuan as if she was looking at a lunatic. "What's with that look?" Lu Yuan snapped his fingers at Zhu Zhuqing's smooth forehead. "Ouch!" Zhu Zhuqing revealed a rare expression of grievance after being hit by Lu Yuan. Zhu Zhuqing wrinkled her nose and said, "I'm serious. Don't joke around." "Do you think I'm joking?" Lu Yuan looked straight at Zhu Zhuqing. "Are you really going to take responsibility for me?" Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan with a faint look of expectation in her eyes. "Of course, I never lie." Lu Yuan smiled gently. Zhu Zhuqing smiled with a beautiful expression. She looked at Lu Yuan and said, "Your words are enough." Looking at Zhu Zhuqing's expression, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "From now on, you can do whatever you want. Everyone has the right to pursue freedom. As for the Xianra Empire's imperial family, just leave it to me. Where exactly are you from?" Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan with a puzzled expression. "You'll know in the future. You just need to know that the Xianra Empire's imperial family can't threaten me. That's enough." Lu Yuan's face was full of smiles. Zhu Zhuqing looked seriously at Lu Yuan and was speechless for a long time. Chapter 119. Lu Yuan cleaned the wound on Zhu Zhuqing's back, applied some medicine, and bandaged it. The wound was basically treated. "It hurts a lot, doesn't it?" Lu Yuan asked softly as he looked at Zhu Zhuqing, who was exhausted. It's all right. Zhu Zhuqing replied softly with a gentle expression. After talking with Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing felt a lot more relieved. Although she didn't know where Lu Yuan's confidence came from, she chose to believe Lu Yuan's words. Although they hadn't known each other for long, she understood Lu Yuan's personality. He was an extremely arrogant person who disdained to lie. Lu Yuan's arrogance was different from others. His arrogance came from his bones. Zhu Zhuqing had a deep understanding of this. Since he said he had a way, then he definitely had a way. Zhu Zhuqing didn't doubt this at all. Do you have a change of clothes? Lu Yuan asked softly after treating the wound. Zhu Zhuqing's leather clothes and undergarments needed to be changed. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing shook her head. No. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask, then before you entered the ruins, didn't you consider changing your clothes? I forgot. Zhu Zhuqing's face was slightly red as she lowered her head slightly. You forgot? Lu Yuan was stunned. What kind of operation was this? He wanted to complain, but seeing Zhu Zhuqing at the side, he couldn't bear to say anything. I forget it. Lu Yuan waved his astral ring and took out a set of women's clothes. He handed it to Zhu Zhuqing and said, It might be a bit big, but make do with it. Why do you have women's clothes? Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan suspiciously. I prepared it for my senior sister. Lu Yuan didn't hide it and said, Senior sister? Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan suspiciously. That gaze made Lu Yuan feel a little cold. Zhuqing, why are you looking at me like that? Zhu Zhuqing looked at the clothes in her hand, then looked at Lu Yuan's fairy-like face. She sighed softly and said, My worries have come true. Worried? When Lu Yuan heard Zhu Zhuqing's words, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he suddenly reacted, and a rare trace of embarrassment appeared on his handsome face. Zhuqing, let me help you change, Lu Yuan said. Zhu Zhuqing nodded. After all, she didn't have any strength left. Lu Yuan first helped Zhu Zhuqing put on her inner shirt. The inner shirt was a little big, but it could be worn if the sleeves were rolled up slightly. After putting on her underwear, Lu Yuan began to help Zhu Zhuqing put on her coat. Lu Yuan helped Zhu Zhuqing put on her coat. Zhu Zhuqing was lying in Lu Yuan's arms. Looking at Lu Yuan, who was seriously helping her put on her clothes, Zhu Zhuqing blinked her big eyes and suddenly bit Lu Yuan's shoulder. Hiss! The sudden sharp pain made Lu Yuan suck in a breath of cold air. The clear breath scripture automatically activated to protect his body. Lu Yuan was shocked and hurriedly suppressed the fluctuation of his soul power. If this burst of soul power was released, it would definitely shatter Zhu Zhuqing's silver teeth. Zhu Zhuqing fiercely bit Lu Yuan before letting go. Lu Yuan touched his shoulder. Good heavens, 2 rows of teeth marks were clearly visible. It felt real to the touch. He could even feel that the skin on his shoulder was definitely broken. Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing with a helpless expression. I really want to bite you to death. Zhu Zhuqing glared fiercely at Lu Yuan. Hearing that, Lu Yuan helplessly shook his head and could only swallow the bitter fruit. Who asked him to step on? Cough, cough. Lu Yuan had no choice but to help Zhu Zhuqing put on her clothes, but he could not say anything. Although Hulina's clothes were a little big on Zhu Zhuqing, it still had a different kind of beauty. Lu Yuan stared for a while and nodded. What are you looking at? Zhu Zhuqing was a little embarrassed by Lu Yuan's stare. She blushed and asked, I'm looking at you. Lu Yuan smiled lightly. Seeing that Zhu Zhuqing was a little embarrassed, he didn't tease her anymore. After all, he knew that Zhu Zhuqing's skin was very thin. After treating Zhu Zhuqing's wounds and putting on her clothes, Lu Yuan began to prepare the blood crystals and the bones of the 1,000-year Thunder Spirit Tiger with some herbs to boil a pot of soup to help Zhu Zhuqing quickly recover from her injuries. Lu Yuan skinned the 1,000-year Thunder Spirit Tiger and separated the bones from the bones. Then, he chose 2 large pieces of tiger bones and put them into the pot to boil. After boiling, he skimmed off the foam and added the blood crystals and some herbs. Lu Yuan put the lid on the pot and started boiling. This was a delicate process that required a lot of time. Whether it was the tiger bones or the blood crystals, they all required a lot of time to boil out their essence. And only when the medicinal effects were completely stimulated could the greatest effect be achieved. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, who was still sitting there, Lu Yuan clapped his hands and walked to her. He sat down and pulled her into his arms. "You!" Zhu Zhuqing exclaimed and looked at Lu Yuan with dissatisfaction. Facing Zhu Zhuqing's dissatisfied gaze, Lu Yuan pretended that he didn't see it. He smiled and said, "Don't you think it's easier to lean in my arms than you sitting?" Zhu Zhuqing's abdomen and back were injured, so she couldn't lie down or lie down. Otherwise, it would affect her wounds. However, leaning gently in Lu Yuan's arms wasn't a big problem. Zhu Zhuqing glared at Lu Yuan, but didn't refute. After all, Lu Yuan had basically seen her body. To Zhu Zhuqing, she would only choose Lu Yuan in this lifetime. After all, she was a person who would be faithful to her husband. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan with a complicated expression. She didn't know if her choice was right or wrong, but there was a voice in her heart that told her that choosing Lu Yuan was definitely better than choosing that incompetent guy, Dai Mu Bai. Therefore, she chose to follow her heart. She had had enough of the dark days where she could only wait for death. There was a desire in her heart that she wanted to pursue the life she wanted. Lu Yuan was a genius. He was also an overbearing and considerate man. To be honest, Zhu Zhuqing had a good feeling about Lu Yuan. Not only did Lu Yuan save her like a god and shelter her from the wind and rain, but also when she was injured, Lu Yuan took care of her thoughtfully, which warmed her heart. In her life, it seemed that no one had cared about her like Lu Yuan. This feeling of being cared for was really wonderful. Moreover, it felt really good to have someone to rely on. Lying in Lu Yuan's arms, Zhu Zhuqing's thoughts turned. What Dai Mu Bai couldn't give her, the young man in front of her gave her everything. Asking herself, Zhu Zhuqing found that she might have really fallen in love with the young man in front of her. If she were to be with him in the future, it might be a good choice. Thinking of this, Zhu Zhuqing's cold face revealed a smile. Chapter 120. What are you laughing at? Seeing the rare smile on Zhu Zhuqing's ice-cold face, Lu Yuan asked. Zhu Zhuqing didn't answer. Her beautiful eyes swept over Lu Yuan's flawless, handsome face. Even she had to admit that Lu Yuan was really handsome. It wasn't that she hadn't seen handsome guys before. Most of the aristocratic children weren't bad-looking, but compared to Lu Yuan, whether it was temperament or appearance, they were far inferior. The other party's temperament could be said to be the best she had ever seen in her life. Good looks weren't surprising. Maybe it was because of good genes, but temperament wasn't something that everyone could have. Lu Yuan's temperament was particularly eye-catching. Even if Lu Yuan didn't reveal his extraordinary appearance, just his temperament was enough to arouse the curiosity of many people. For example, before Zhu Zhuqing saw Lu Yuan's face, just the temperament that Lu Yuan exuded made her have a very good impression of Lu Yuan. Of course, after seeing his appearance, her good impression of him increased greatly. This was a world where looks mattered the most. Zhu Zhuqing, in particular, had a hidden obsession with looks. In Zhu Zhuqing's opinion, Lu Yuan's stunning looks combined with his fairy-like temperament was an unparalleled temptation to girls. She believed that if Lu Yuan took the initiative to pursue, there were very few girls in the world who could resist. It was also because of this that Zhu Zhuqing loved and hated Lu Yuan's appearance. With Lu Yuan's appearance, even if he didn't take the initiative, there would be many girls throwing themselves at him. Even she herself had fallen in love with Lu Yuan in just 3 or 4 days, didn't she? Although it was because she had experienced a lot and her heart was moved, it couldn't be denied that Lu Yuan's appearance was also an important reason. If Lu Yuan looked like Ma Hongjun, not only would Zhu Zhuqing not be tempted, she might even be a little disgusted. Therefore, appearance and temperament were still a little important. Facing Lu Yuan's question, Zhu Zhuqing quickly restrained the smile on her face, snorted, and turned her head. Oh! Lu Yuan was amused by Zhu Zhuqing's actions. This kitten had a little temper. Lu Yuan stretched out his right hand and gently caressed Zhu Zhuqing's cheek. Zhuqing, what's wrong? How did I make you angry? As Lu Yuan touched her cheek, Zhu Zhuqing's delicate body trembled slightly, and her cheeks flushed red. However, she felt a sweetness in her heart, as if she didn't reject this feeling. Zhu Zhuqing turned her head. There was still a slight blush on her face, but she kept a straight face and pretended to be cold. Lu Yuan couldn't help but chuckle. "Stop laughing." Seeing Lu Yuan smile, Zhu Zhuqing scolded in dissatisfaction. Seeing the trace of embarrassment in Zhu Zhuqing's eyes, Lu Yuan stopped laughing. Looking at Lu Yuan's jade-like face, Zhu Zhuqing's eyes blurred for a moment, then returned to their original coldness. Looking carefully at Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing asked softly, "Lu Yuan, do you love me, or do you like me?" "Of course Before Lu Yuan finished speaking, he was interrupted by Zhu Zhuqing. "I want to hear the truth." Zhu Zhuqing's expression was very serious. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing's serious expression, Lu Yuan put away his lazy look and his expression became solemn. His eyes also became serious. Seeing Lu Yuan's serious look, Zhu Zhuqing's eyes flashed with a trace of satisfaction. She liked Lu Yuan's serious look. "I don't love you." Looking closely at Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan said faintly. There was a hint of conviction in his tone. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's heart ached. It was as if a bottle of mixed feelings had been knocked over. It was indescribably uncomfortable. Her dark eyes were filled with mist, and tears were about to fall. "But I like you a little." Just as Zhu Zhuqing's tears were about to fall, Lu Yuan once again said softly. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's heart felt a lot better. Fortunately, he still liked her. But Zhu Zhuqing still found it hard to accept that the young man in front of her really didn't love her. "Since you don't love me, then why did you accept me? You even said you would help me break off the engagement." "Why?" Zhu Zhuqing asked somewhat angrily. 2 lines of tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. Seeing this, Lu Yuan reached out to wipe Zhu Zhuqing's tears away, but Zhu Zhuqing tilted her head and dodged. Lu Yuan didn't give up. He gently turned Zhu Zhuqing's head back and wiped Zhu Zhuqing's tears away. Zhu Zhuqing allowed Lu Yuan to wipe away her tears. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness as she stubbornly looked at Lu Yuan. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan sighed softly and said, "I'm a very responsible person. As long as it's something I've done, I'll take responsibility." Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's eyes were filled with sorrow. She said, "Then you accepted me just to take responsibility? If that's the case, then there's no need. Only the 2 of us know about this. Furthermore, I still have an engagement. The Douluo royal family is very powerful. There's no need for you to fight them head-on." Hearing Zhu Zhuqing's words, Lu Yuan's eyes flickered with anger. He said, "So I have to watch as you fulfill the engagement and marry Dai Mubai?" "Zhu Zhuqing, I'm telling you, don't even think about it. Since I've already sworn to take responsibility for you, then you can only be mine in this lifetime. Let that dog fart Dai Mubai die." As he spoke, he stared at Zhu Zhuqing with his starry eyes. It was rare to see a trace of anger in Lu Yuan's eyes. Zhu Zhuqing actually felt a little happy. Lu Yuan had always been cold and aloof. Occasionally, he would be a little considerate. However, this was the first time he was angry. "Since you don't love me, why are you forcing yourself?" Zhu Zhuqing asked. Lu Yuan didn't answer this question. Instead, he asked, "How many days have we known each other?" Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. She said, "Including today, around 4 days. Yes, we've only known each other for 4 days. If I fell in love with you in just 4 days, don't you think it's a little strange?" Lu Yuan asked again. "I think so." Zhu Zhuqing nodded in a daze. "Then let me ask you again. Do you love me?" Lu Yuan asked. "Yes, a little." Zhu Zhuqing thought carefully. In just 4 days, he had saved and taken care of her many times. Zhu Zhuqing was clear that she seemed to have fallen in love with this youth. "Oh," Lu Yuan said softly. He said, "If we fell in love with each other in just 4 days, don't you think it's a little rushed? I think that liking someone is very simple, but love requires a long time of mutual investment between us." "Yes." Zhu Zhuqing nodded. She agreed with Lu Yuan's words. So, Zhu Qing, I said that I don't love you now, but I like you a little. However, this is only for now. This is not the future. Perhaps in the future, I will fall in love with you. I will love you so much that I can't help myself. And liking someone is the basis of love. Chapter 121. Like is the foundation of love. Zhu Zhuqing muttered softly. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded slightly and said, You like me? Zhu Zhuqing seemed to be a little confused and asked again. Yes. Lu Yuan said. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan with a serious expression and said, But my heart is still very uncomfortable. It's my fault. Lu Yuan hugged Zhu Zhuqing even tighter. He rested his chin on Zhu Zhuqing's forehead and said, I will make myself fall in love with you faster. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing chuckled. Lu Yuan's answer was a little interesting. Zhuqing? Lu Yuan called softly. What's the matter? Zhu Zhuqing was a little curious. You said you're a little in love with me? Lu Yuan's tone was a little happy and proud. He didn't expect that he could make Zhu Zhuqing fall in love with him in just 4 days. It seemed that his pickup skills were quite good. Lu Yuan was a little happy in his heart. Although Zhu Zhuqing was a little embarrassed, she still nodded and said softly, but just a little. Ha! Lu Yuan laughed and kissed Zhu Zhuqing's forehead, saying, A little is enough, but I believe that you will fall in love with me in the future. Shameless. Zhu Zhuqing spat softly, but when she thought of Lu Yuan's peerless beauty, she believed it in her heart. She felt that if she really spent a long time with Lu Yuan, it was really a matter of time before she fell in love with him. Zhuqing, let's make a promise. Lu Yuan smiled slightly. What promise? Zhu Zhuqing asked. We're still young now, but if I fall in love with you in the future and you fall in love with me, then let's be together, okay? Lu Yuan said. Okay. Zhu Zhuqing was silent for a while and softly replied. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled and kissed Zhu Zhuqing's forehead again, causing Zhu Zhuqing, who was lying in Lu Yuan's arms, to blush. This guy, he took advantage of her whenever he had the chance. However, I have a question. Zhu Zhuqing asked. What is it? What if only one of us falls in love with the other in the future? Zhu Zhuqing gently nodded for a while and asked her own doubts. After all, Lu Yuan only liked her now, and she had already fallen in love with Lu Yuan. It seemed that she was not far from falling in love with him. But what about Lu Yuan? Would he fall in love with her? Zhu Zhuqing wasn't sure. After all, Lu Yuan was too outstanding. It was very likely that she loved Lu Yuan so much that she couldn't extricate herself. However, Lu Yuan didn't love her. This was very likely to happen. The more Zhu Zhuqing thought about it, the more worried she felt. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled gently and said, If you fall in love with me in the future, but I don't, then I will still marry you. After all, I have promised, so I must do it. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing felt relieved and asked again, Then what if you fall in love with me, but I don't love you that much? Then you will still be mine. Lu Yuan smiled. You're being unreasonable. Zhu Zhuqing was so angry that she laughed. So it didn't matter if he fell in love with her or not. She had to marry him or not. Oh, reasonable? I have never been reasonable. Lu Yuan said domineeringly. Anyway, you, Zhu Zhuqing, can only be mine in this lifetime. You can't run away. Zhu Zhuqing lay in Lu Yuan's arms and felt Lu Yuan's heartbeat. She bit her red lips and said, You are so domineering. However, there was a trace of sweetness in Zhu Zhuqing's heart. Such a domineering man was really lovable. Of course I have to be domineering. Otherwise, what if my future wife runs away? Lu Yuan smiled and gently stroked Zhu Zhuqing's long hair. Zhu Zhuqing's hair was unusually soft. It felt very good to the touch, like fine silk. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing blushed, but she didn't refute. She just leaned in Lu Yuan's arms. Lu Yuan stroked Zhu Zhuqing's hair and sniffed the delicate fragrance coming from Zhu Zhuqing's body. It was rare for his heart to calm down. Lying in Lu Yuan's arms, Zhu Zhuqing quietly looked at the side of Lu Yuan's face. Her eyes were gentle. Gurgle, gurgle. This was the sound of the hot water boiling against the lid of the pot. Oh, the soup is boiling, Lu Yuan said as he looked at the steam coming from the pot. Is this soup really useful for my injuries? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Yes, not only is it useful, but it's also very effective, Lu Yuan affirmed. He continued. But what? Zhu Zhuqing widened her beautiful eyes. But this blood crystal is condensed from the essence of blood. It's indeed very nutritious, but the taste after it's boiled might be a little. Lu Yuan glanced at Zhu Zhuqing and said, Might the taste be bad? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded and said, But you have to finish it all. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan with resentment. You know it won't taste good, but you want me to finish it all? Don't look at me like that. I'm doing this for your own good. Look at all the injuries on your body. Look at how badly you're injured. Lu Yuan pointed at Zhu Zhuqing's abdomen, arms, and the injuries on her back. Then will you drink it? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, I'm not injured. Why would I drink it? As if it was a matter of course. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. Man. Lu Yuan naturally ignored Zhu Zhuqing's gaze. You know it's not good, but you still want to suffer? I'm not stupid. The gurgling sound was heard for a long time. Lu Yuan looked at the sky and said, It should be about time. I'll go take a look. As he spoke, he helped Zhu Zhuqing up and gestured for her to sit up properly. Zhu Zhuqing nodded and sat up straight. She watched Lu Yuan's actions without blinking. Lu Yuan opened the lid, and a bloody smell assailed his nostrils. Lu Yuan unconsciously frowned. Although the blood crystal was indeed very nutritious, the smell was really indescribable. Looking at the soup that was completely boiled and had turned into a bright red color, Lu Yuan nodded. At this stage, the essence of the blood crystal and the thunder spirit tiger's bones had basically been completely boiled out. Lu Yuan scooped a bowl and brought it to Zhu Zhuqing. He scooped up a spoonful with a wooden spoon and gently blew on it before bringing it to Zhu Zhuqing's mouth. Drink it. Smelling the pungent smell of blood, Zhu Zhuqing's eyes carried a trace of speechlessness. She looked at Lu Yuan with her beautiful eyes. Why are you looking at me? Let's drink. Lu Yuan was baffled by Zhu Zhuqing's stare. You drink it first. Zhu Zhuqing's cold voice sounded. I'll drink it first. I'm not injured. Why would I drink it? Come on, stop fooling around. Drink it, and your injuries will heal quickly. Lu Yuan comforted her. As he spoke, he brought the wooden spoon to Zhu Zhuqing's mouth again. You drink it first. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan, and her cold voice sounded again. Chapter 122. I'll drink it first. Lu Yuan's hand paused as he looked at Zhu Zhuqing helplessly. Why did this lass insist on him drinking it? He wasn't even injured. If you don't drink it, I won't drink it either. Zhu Zhuqing's voice was cold as she stared at Lu Yuan without blinking. I'm the only one suffering. Don't even think about it. So I forget it. Lu Yuan could tell that this lass wanted him to drink it with her. If he didn't drink it, this lass wouldn't drink it either. You lass, Lu Yuan muttered as he poured the soup into his mouth. The smell of blood permeated the air along with the bitter taste of the herbs. The taste was indeed unbearable. Lu Yuan frowned and swallowed the soup. He glanced at Zhu Zhuqing in front of him and said exasperatedly, Girl, can you drink it now? Zhu Zhuqing nodded softly. She didn't mind that this wooden spoon was used by Lu Yuan just now. She drank the blood-colored soup that Lu Yuan handed to her in one gulp. The taste of the soup made from the blood crystal was indeed unflattering. Even Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but frown. However, although the taste wasn't good, the effects are real. The moment it entered her mouth, it turned into a warm current that flowed into Zhu Zhuqing's limbs and bones. It made Zhu Zhuqing's originally pale face seem to have a tinge of color. The combination of the blood crystal and the thunder's spiritual tiger bone was indeed miraculous. However, Zhu Zhuqing didn't take the wooden spoon that Lu Yuan handed to her again. She looked at Lu Yuan with a pair of beautiful eyes with a gentle gaze. What's wrong, Zhu Qing? Lu Yuan was stunned by Zhu Zhuqing's gaze. He placed the wooden spoon back into the bowl and looked into Zhu Zhuqing's eyes as he asked. Lu Yuan. Zhu Zhuqing's red lips parted slightly. I have something to say to you, Zhu Zhuqing said softly. Go ahead. Lu Yuan smiled gently. I hope that in the future, whether it's sweet or bitter, we can taste it together. You cannot love me, but you can never abandon me. A trace of sadness flashed across Zhu Zhuqing's eyes. She had already decided to follow Lu Yuan for the rest of her life. Even if Lu Yuan might have other people he loved, she would still follow Lu Yuan. Even though there was jealousy and unwillingness in her heart, she only hoped that Lu Yuan could always be with her and not be like Dai Mubai in the past, abandoning her alone. Zhu Zhuqing didn't want to experience the feeling of being abandoned and falling into endless darkness again. Zhuqing. Lu Yuan put down the bowl and held Zhu Zhuqing in his arms. His tone was solemn and serious. I will never abandon you. You are mine. No matter how difficult or dangerous it is, I will face it with you. Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing looked at each other. Their reflections reflected in each other's eyes. Okay, Zhu Zhuqing said softly. Lu Yuan held Zhu Zhuqing in his arms and picked up the bowl beside him. He drank a mouthful and then fed Zhu Zhuqing a mouthful. Although the taste was strange, the two of them finished it. Lu Yuan put the bowl aside and looked at Zhu Zhuqing. He asked, how do you feel? Much better. The blood crystal did have a miraculous effect, and it took effect quickly. Based on the effects, Zhu Zhuqing's injuries would be completely healed in about 3 days after she finished drinking the soup. Lu Yuan glanced at the pot filled with soup and winked mischievously at Zhu Zhuqing. Do you want more? Zhu Zhuqing rolled her eyes, but she still shook her head and said, no. Although the blood crystal tiger bone soup had amazing effects, the taste was also indescribable. Zhu Zhuqing would rather her injuries heal slowly than touch it. That's fine too. I'll put it away first and heat it up for you at night. Ignoring Zhu Zhuqing's resentful eyes, Lu Yuan put the blood crystal tiger bone soup into a container that he carried with him and sealed it. The blood crystal tiger bone soup had an amazing effect. Although Lu Yuan could tell that Zhu Zhuqing did not like the taste, for the sake of Zhu Zhuqing's health, he still had to watch Zhu Zhuqing finish it bit by bit. After finishing the soup, Lu Yuan began to set up the tent. Zhu Zhuqing was injured and couldn't spend the night outside. After setting up the tent, it was already 4 or 5 in the afternoon. It was time to prepare dinner. The two of them didn't eat lunch and only drank some soup. This was undoubtedly not enough, especially since Zhu Zhuqing was seriously injured. She needed to have enough nutrition. Fortunately, Lu Yuan still had the 1,000-year thunder spirit tiger meat on him. This 1,000-year-old beast meat was very nutritious. The meat soup and some wild fruits they found in the forest were their dinner. As usual, Lu Yuan fed Zhu Zhuqing dinner before starting to eat. By the time the meal was over and everything was cleaned up, night had already fallen. Looking at Lu Yuan, who was still sitting outside, Zhu Zhuqing said softly, Lu Yuan, come in and sleep. This time, Lu Yuan didn't refuse. After all, he and Zhu Zhuqing had already committed themselves to each other. Moreover, Zhu Zhuqing could only sit. Sitting to sleep was a little uncomfortable. It was easier to fall asleep in Lu Yuan's arms. Lu Yuan entered the tent and hugged Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing was like a docile kitten, quietly lying in Lu Yuan's arms. Lu Yuan gently stroked Zhu Zhuqing's hair. With Zhu Zhuqing around, he naturally couldn't cultivate. He just looked at her quietly and then paid attention to the situation around the tent. 3 days later, Lu Yuan removed the gauze from Zhu Zhuqing's body. Looking at the skin that had already recovered, he smiled and said, Your injuries have completely healed. Zhu Zhuqing's cold face revealed a smile and said, I've finally recovered. I don't need to trouble you to take care of me anymore. Why? Now that you've recovered, you want to kick me aside? Lu Yuan said with a smile. Zhu Zhuqing's beautiful eyes glared at Lu Yuan and said, What are you talking about? Lu Yuan laughed and hugged Zhu Zhuqing in his arms. Zhu Zhuqing didn't struggle and let Lu Yuan hold her in his arms. Lu Yuan lightly breathed in and revealed a trace of a naughty smile. Zhuqing, you have to bathe more. Your body seems to have a stench. Due to her injuries, Zhu Zhuqing hadn't bathed for a few days. Her body was indeed in a sorry state, but it wasn't as bad as the stench. Get lost. Zhu Zhuqing slapped Lu Yuan's body. No girl would like others to say that she smelled. Not to mention that Lu Yuan was the person that Zhu Zhuqing valued the most right now. Zhu Zhuqing naturally cared about Lu Yuan's impression of her the most. Zhu Zhuqing struggled in Lu Yuan's arms, but was tightly hugged by Lu Yuan. Didn't you say that I smelled? Why are you still hugging me? Zhu Zhuqing said angrily. I like the stench on your body. Lu Yuan chuckled, causing Zhu Zhuqing to helplessly roll her eyes. This man was he clearly had a cold face, but he did things like a scoundrel. She really couldn't get angry at all. Zhuqing, if I'm not wrong, you should have already reached level 20. Lu Yuan said with a smile as he hugged Zhu Zhuqing's delicate body. Chapter 123. Okay. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing nodded. After drinking the blood crystal tiger bone soup for 3 days, although it didn't taste very good, the energy it contained was not small. Not only did it heal Zhu Zhuqing's injuries, but Zhu Zhuqing's soul power also broke through to rank 20. Of course, Lu Yuan also benefited from it. His soul power also broke through to rank 29. Zhu Zhuqing wasn't surprised that Lu Yuan could see through her soul power. After interacting with Lu Yuan for some time, Zhu Zhuqing knew that he was a mysterious man. Zhu Zhuqing was sure that there was no other person like Lu Yuan in the entire Douluo continent. Lu Yuan was one of a kind. At least in Zhu Zhuqing's heart, Lu Yuan was already full. As for Dai Mubai, she had already forgotten about him. Over the past 3 days, Zhu Zhuqing, who had already fallen in love with Lu Yuan, undoubtedly developed deeper feelings for Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan also liked Zhu Zhuqing, who looked cold on the outside, but was actually a little arrogant. He had a better impression of her. Originally, he got close to Zhu Zhuqing because she was kind-hearted, and that was why he saved her. He also wanted to destroy the relationship between Shrek's 7 monsters. But now, Lu Yuan was really honest with Zhu Zhuqing. He was also slowly trying to accept Zhu Zhuqing in his heart. This was a true display of emotions and not a pretense. After all, Zhu Zhuqing was now considered one of them. At the very least, there was one more person that Lu Yuan cared about now. Accepting Zhu Zhuqing was much easier than accepting Hulina. After all, he and Zhu Zhuqing didn't have any obstructions from Hulina. Lu Yuan didn't have much resistance in his heart. Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing didn't have that kind of transformation from kinship to love. A hero saving a damsel in distress. The hero was handsome, the beauty was beautiful, the man took the initiative, and the woman didn't reject him. Coupled with some intimate interactions, it was natural for them to be together. Even though both of them had OCD, the one who wanted Zhu Zhuqing's heart was him. One was fighting to make Lu Yuan fall in love with her. Although they might not love each other deeply at the moment, it was certain that they liked each other. Moreover, the two of them were still young. As they grew older, their feelings for each other would slowly ferment. Perhaps the two of them didn't even know that they were already inseparable. Perhaps, from the moment Lu Yuan swore on his martial soul, their fates were destined to be intertwined. Even though this outcome was only beneficial to both Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing, there was no harm in it. Without Zhu Zhuqing, Shrek's 7 monsters had lost their most powerful weapon, the Netherworld White Tiger. Without the Netherworld White Tiger, Dai Mubai was basically crippled, and Shrek had lost an arm. This was a good thing for Lu Yuan and the Martial Soul Palace. To Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan's appearance gave her someone to rely on and also gave her an opportunity to escape from her current predicament. She wouldn't be bothered by the Star Luo Empire and the Zhu family anymore, and she would have a brighter future ahead of her. This was because Lu Yuan definitely wouldn't let his woman be taken advantage of, and this was something that she couldn't do as a member of Shrek's 7 monsters. After all, Lu Yuan, who possessed the system, was the greatest miracle on the Douluo continent. Lu Yuan's future was unpredictable, and Zhu Zhuqing would naturally be able to obtain greater opportunities by following Lu Yuan. This was far from what a mere member of Shrek's 7 monsters could compare to. Since you're already ranked 20, you can go and obtain a soul ring, Lu Yuan said with a smile as he hugged Zhu Zhuqing. And Zhu Zhuqing nodded lightly. There are many soul beasts in this forest, and we've even encountered a few 1,000-year soul beasts. It shouldn't be difficult to find a suitable 100-year soul beast for you, Lu Yuan said. We'll continue to search as we move forward. Even if we're unlucky, we should be able to find a suitable soul ring before we leave the forest. I'll listen to you. Zhu Zhuqing didn't have any objections to Lu Yuan's arrangements. She was already very convinced of Lu Yuan's abilities over the past few days. Then let's set off. Lu Yuan smiled and released Zhu Zhuqing. Wait a minute. Zhu Zhuqing suddenly shouted at Lu Yuan. What's wrong, Zhuqing? Is there something else? Lu Yuan was a little puzzled. Wait a minute, I want to take a bath first. Zhu Zhuqing's face was slightly red, and her voice was very soft. Lu Yuan was stunned. It turned out that Zhu Zhuqing had taken his casual words seriously. However, she just wanted to take a bath. This was a small matter, and Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't refuse. Then go ahead and take a bath. Do you want me to help you get some water? The place that the two of them had chosen wasn't far from the small stream. The stream water was clear, and they could use it to take a bath. No need. I'll take a bath in the river. Help me look around, Zhu Zhuqing said. All right. Lu Yuan took out another set of clothes from his astral ring and handed it to Zhu Zhuqing. Looking at the clothes that were obviously one size too big, Zhu Zhuqing thought about the senior sister that Lu Yuan had unintentionally mentioned. Her cold gaze swept across Lu Yuan's face. That sharp gaze made Lu Yuan shiver unconsciously. Don't peek. Zhu Zhuqing's voice came from afar. Hearing this, Lu Yuan rolled his eyes. Did he look like the kind of person who would peek? Even if he wanted to look, he would do it openly. Peeking secretly was something that Lu Yuan wouldn't do. An hour later, Zhu Zhuqing had finished bathing. She was wearing a set of golden white clothes, which made her look very pretty. Zhu Zhuqing stood gracefully in front of Lu Yuan. Her soft black hair was still dripping with water. You didn't wipe it dry? Lu Yuan touched his astral ring lightly, and a clean towel appeared in his hand. Zhu Zhuqing quietly lay on Lu Yuan's lap, allowing Lu Yuan to help her dry her wet hair. A 900-year netherworld cat? It seems a little old. Lu Yuan casually tossed the netherworld cat aside and shook his head. Zhu Zhuqing wasn't like him. Her physique wasn't much stronger than an ordinary soul master's. Therefore, her second soul ring should be around 700 years old. The closer it was to 700 years old, the better. 5 days had passed since Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing set off again. In these 5 days, Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing had encountered many soul beasts. Some soul beasts were quite suitable for the netherworld civet, but it was a pity that they were either too old, exceeding Zhu Zhuqing's limit, or too young. It wasn't worth it to absorb them. Lu Yuan was also someone who had extremely high requirements for soul rings. For Zhu Zhuqing's development, the more suitable it was, the closer it was to her limit, the better. There was once a 500-year ghostly tiger. Zhu Zhuqing was prepared to absorb it, but she was rejected by Lu Yuan. That was because a 500-year ghostly tiger was still too young. Furthermore, the ghostly tiger wasn't considered a high-level soul beast, so the soul skill it produced wouldn't be very powerful. According to Lu Yuan's idea, he wanted to match Zhu Zhuqing with at least a top-level soul beast, just like his requirements for his own soul rings. After all, Zhu Zhuqing was now his, and Lu Yuan had always been very attentive to his own people. Chapter 124. According to Lu Yuan's plan, only top-tier soul beasts like the netherworld purple spirit cat and the ghost flame howling wind tiger were worthy of Zhu Zhuqing. Furthermore, top-tier soul beasts under the 1,000-year level would be easily captured by Lu Yuan. With Lu Yuan's current strength, he could even hunt soul beasts under the 1,000-year level, such as the Titan giant ape, alone. His strength was just that strong. Let's go, Zhu Qing. After throwing the netherworld purple spirit cat to the side, Lu Yuan smiled at Zhu Qing. And Zhu Qing nodded and followed closely beside Lu Yuan. The two of them walked side by side. In fact, if two people were in a team, especially if one of them was strong and the other was weak, the best way to advance was to walk side by side. This was because it was easier to take care of each other. With one at the front and one at the back, it was very likely that they wouldn't be able to save each other in time. Lu Yuan held Zhu Qing's small hand in one hand and the astonishing spear in the other. Zhu Qing's hand felt different from Hulina's. Hulina's hand was warm and blazing, but Zhu Qing's hand was somewhat cold and slippery. It was more like a piece of moist, ice-cold jade. The feeling of holding it was very good. Zhu Qing was a little shy when Lu Yuan held her small hand. However, the feeling of being held by Lu Yuan's large hand was exceptionally strong and full, giving Zhu Qing a great sense of security. Looking at Lu Yuan's almost perfect side profile, Zhu Qing was a little mesmerized. Although Zhu Qing had seen it many times over the past few days, and could even see it every morning when she woke up, she still didn't get tired of it. Zhu Qing felt that she was about to be mesmerized by Lu Yuan's appearance. Originally, Lu Yuan wanted to wear the mask again, but for some reason, Zhu Qing didn't allow him to. Lu Yuan had no choice but to accommodate Zhu Qing's wishes. After all, she was his woman, and he had to pamper her. Pushing aside the weeds in front of them, Lu Yuan pulled Zhu Qing forward again. It had to be said that this forest was indeed very big. Lu Yuan and Yi Zichen had walked for so long, but they still hadn't walked out of the forest. In fact, Lu Yuan estimated that they might have only walked less than half the distance. The strength of the soul beasts in this forest wasn't ordinary, but perhaps because the people who entered the ruins were all under the age of 20, the soul beasts here were mostly 100 or 1,000 years old. Other than the dream demon fox, Lu Yuan hadn't encountered any other 10,000-year soul beasts. But then again, a 10,000-year soul beast was a fatal threat to anyone below the level of a Soul King. Even Lu Yuan would only be able to protect himself against a 10,000-year soul beast, and it would be extremely difficult for him to kill one. As for the dream demon fox, that was a special case. If there were too many 10,000-year soul beasts, the disparity in strength would be too great, and there wouldn't be any need to train. As one of the 5 divine kings, the goddess of life must have taken this into consideration. Although Lu Yuan still believed that people who died in the ruins could be resurrected outside, this was only Lu Yuan's guess after all. Without actual evidence, Lu Yuan couldn't use his and Zhu Qing's lives to prove this senseless conjecture. Moreover, if they died, even if they were resurrected, it would mean that the treasures in the ruins were completely not fated with them. Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't do such a foolish thing. Therefore, walking in this forest, Lu Yuan was still very careful, paying attention to the dangers that might come from all directions. Pushing aside the weeds in front of them again, Lu Yuan's body suddenly paused, and his ears perked up slightly. "What's wrong?" Zhu Qing asked softly. "There seems to be movement in front. It seems like someone is fighting." Lu Yuan perked up his ears and listened to the faint sound. Lu Yuan made a simple judgment of the situation in front of them. Hearing this, Zhu Qing also became vigilant. She firmly believed in Lu Yuan's judgment. "It's okay, don't be afraid. It's still very far from us. Let's go up and take a look first." Lu Yuan comforted Zhu Qing and said softly to her. As he spoke, he picked up his mask and put it on. It didn't matter if it was only Zhu Qing, but if they might meet other people, then it was still necessary to keep it a secret. Zhu Qing saw Lu Yuan's action of putting on the mask, but she didn't stop him. She believed that Lu Yuan had his own reasons for doing so. "Let's go, Zhu Qing." Lu Yuan pulled Zhu Qing's lily-white hand and slowly moved forward. After walking for about 500 meters, the current situation of the battle came into view. In the field, A 13 or 14-year-old male wearing white clothes was fighting with a 4-meter-long blood-red python. Lu Yuan recognized this python. It was a scarlet flame python, and among snake-type soul beasts, it was probably on the same level as the mandala snake. The scarlet flame python in front of them clearly had a cultivation of 1,000 years, because its 4-meter-long body was a sign that it had entered the 1,000-year realm. The white-clothed youth opposite, it was holding a guqin that was overflowing with light and color. What was strange was that ordinary guqins had 7 strings, but the one in this youth's hands only had 6. This youth's cultivation wasn't low. 3 yellow, and purple soul rings rippled beneath his body. At the age of 13 or 14, he had actually broken through to become a soul elder. This was another genius. Lu Yuan also felt that this person was somewhat familiar, because this youth was the one who had discovered Lu Yuan's soul force fluctuations in the Zither sect. It's him. Lu Yuan muttered softly. He's the Zither sect's Zither Fu Sheng. Zhu Zhuqing's voice carried a trace of surprise. What? Zhuqing, you know him? Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing curiously. And Zhu Zhuqing nodded and said, he's the junior sect master of the Zither sect, Zither Fu Sheng. I met him once before. I think it was at a banquet, but I can't remember exactly which banquet it was. The junior sect master of the Zither sect? Lu Yuan said softly. I have a bit of an impression of this sect. Their martial soul is a tool soul called the Light Stream Zither. They're good at spiritual control, but they're somewhat lacking in offensive power. This sect's strength should be second only to the lower 4 sects, and it's precisely because their martial soul lacks offensive power that they haven't been able to enter the ranks of the lower 4 sections. However, this Zither Fu Sheng's martial soul's offensive power isn't weak. That Soundwave Blade's offensive soul skill is actually quite powerful. It's definitely not inferior to the soul skills of other assault-type soul masters. Furthermore, his martial soul only has 6 strings. Perhaps his martial soul has mutated. From the looks of it, he doesn't seem to be a control-type soul master. He's more like a half-control, half-attack type. Lu Yuan rubbed his chin as he watched Zither Fu's Soundwave Blade add another wound to the Scarlet Flame Python's body. Seeing Lu Yuan habitually analyze Zither Fu, Zhu Zhuqing looked at the situation and asked, do we need to make a move? Lu Yuan tapped his chin and asked, Zhuqing, you're from the Star Luo Empire. Do you know what the relationship between the Zither sect and the Star Luo Imperial family is? Chapter 125. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing narrowed her eyes and thought for a while before asking, how is the relationship between the Zither sect and the Star Luo Imperial family? Their relationship should be mediocre. The Star Luo Imperial family is tyrannical and iron-blooded, but the Zither sect advocates freedom and equality. The relationship between the disciples and the sect seems to be very good. How should I put it? The Zither sect is somewhat incompatible with the Star Luo Empire and even our Zhu family. It's more suitable for the atmosphere of the Heaven Do Empire. The Zither sect also wantonly recruits commoners. It's also the only sect in the Xianra Empire that recruits commoners. It's a bit similar to the Seven Treasures Glazed sect, one of the 3 upper sections. The difference is that although the Seven Treasures Glazed sect recruits commoners, they also recruit nobles. However, the Zither sect only recruits commoners and never nobles. Zhu Zhuqing said. Oh, Lu Yuan was interested in a sect that only recruited commoners and not nobles. Originally, although he had some impression of the Zither sect, it was only limited to when he was researching martial souls. Out of curiosity about the flowing light Zither, he only paid a little attention to it. In fact, he only had a rough estimate of the Zither sect's strength. Lu Yuan really didn't know about its relationship with the Xianra Empire and other powers. But now that Zhu Zhuqing said this, Lu Yuan was somewhat interested. This Zither sect was quite interesting. Lu Yuan came from Nodding Academy. He had always known about the conflict between nobles and commoners. It had already reached a very serious point. Nobles bullying commoners, no matter which city or empire it was, could basically be seen. There seemed to be only one way for commoners to break free from the oppression of nobles, and that was to become a sole master, break free from the oppression, integrate into the nobles, become a new noble, and then continue to oppress commoners. It had to be said that it was somewhat sad. All this time, Lu Yuan had pretended not to see it. He only cared about the few people around him: Chihiro Snow, the fellows, Bibi Don, Hulina, and the new Zhu Zhuqing in front of him. As for the others, Lu Yuan instinctively chose to ignore them. But now, Lu Yuan suddenly had a thought. If he had just come to the Douluo continent to help the martial Soul Palace and beat up little Tang San, it would have been a little regretful. Perhaps he should also leave a deep mark on the Douluo continent, and let the future generations remember the name Lu Yuan. That would have been better. The conflict between the nobles and the commoners had been going on for a long time. Would it be more interesting if he completely eliminated all the nobles, eliminated all the corruption, and liberated the commoners? Thinking of this, Lu Yuan's heart surged with battle intent. If his enemies were only Tang San and Shrek's 7 monsters, then that wouldn't be enough. However, if the corrupt nobles of the entire Douluo continent were added into the mix, then perhaps Lu Yuan would be more interested. Liberating the commoners and promoting the development of the entire Douluo continent was very tempting to Lu Yuan. Once this thought arose, he could no longer suppress it. Or rather, this thought had been buried in Lu Yuan's heart for a long time. It was only today that it erupted and could no longer be stopped. After all, Lu Yuan also came from under the red flag in his previous life. Equality between people had been engraved in Lu Yuan's bones. Perhaps he was arrogant and didn't think highly of others, but that was because of his disdain for strength and not because of his personality. In terms of Lu Yuan's heart, he was willing to get along with the people around him as equals. In order to do all of this, he couldn't just rely on the martial Soul Palace. He also needed his own power. Only the power in his own hands was his. Currently, the martial Soul Palace belonged to Bibi Don and Sendoryu. In the future, it would belong to Chihiro Snow. Of course, it might belong to him, but it also might not belong to him. He could borrow the power of the martial Soul Palace, but he couldn't just rely on the martial Soul Palace. Furthermore, Lu Yuan could foresee that if he wanted to implement this idea, the resistance from within the martial Soul Palace would definitely be enormous. Therefore, he needed to have enough power to overcome all of this. Perhaps the Zither sect could be plotted against. Of course, it wouldn't be now. Right now, he was just building a good relationship with them in advance and brushing up on their favorability. Furthermore, this Zither sect only recruited commoners and didn't recruit nobles. Since it was so unique, the young sect master of the Zither sect might be an interesting person. Lu Yuan was somewhat interested in this Zither Sheng in front of him, not only because of his identity as the young sect master of the Zither sect, but also because of his powerful spiritual power. After all, among everyone present that day, he was the only one of the younger generation who had noticed Lu Yuan's gaze. His spiritual power was so high that it didn't seem to be much inferior to Hulina's. Lu Yuan's thoughts turned, but Zhu Zhuqing noticed that Lu Yuan was different. Lu Yuan's temperament seemed to have risen again. The original cold temperament was still there, but it seemed to have a sense of vastness and boundlessness. It was as if he was facing the boundless sky, enveloping all things. He became more and more like an immortal, and couldn't help but become more convincing. This was because the structure in Lu Yuan's heart had risen again. From merely unifying the continent to liberating the commoners and destroying all corruption, Lu Yuan's mental state had risen a bit. The rise in his mental state naturally brought about a transformation in his temperament. Lu Yuan naturally didn't know what Zhu Zhuqing was thinking. His eyes narrowed as he watched the battle. This young sect master of the Zither sect seemed to have just become a soul exalt. Although he wasn't at a disadvantage against a genuine 1,000-year scarlet python, it was still somewhat difficult for him to win. Zhuqing, wait for me. I'll go help him. Lu Yuan said to Zhu Zhuqing. He raised a shock of the world and rushed forward. Zhu Zhuqing's face was still cold as she watched Lu Yuan's figure. However, her large eyes were twinkling. Although Lu Yuan hadn't said anything, she could feel that the power Lu Yuan belonged to didn't have a friendly relationship with the Xianra Empire. Now that Lu Yuan was helping Zither Sheng, it was even more clear. She was actually very smart. When Lu Yuan heard that the Zither sect only recruited commoners, the trace of admiration in his eyes hadn't been hidden from her. Moreover, Lu Yuan might have his own plans for getting close to Zither Sheng. Zhu Zhuqing could guess all of this. Zither Sheng's relationship with her Zhu family couldn't be considered good, and there were even some conflicts between the Zhu family and the Zither sect. However, Zhu Zhuqing didn't care. Right now, she cared more about Lu Yuan. In Zhu Zhuqing's world, besides working hard to survive, there was only one person she cared about, Lu Yuan. Her disregard for others was true disregard. It was much more serious than Lu Yuan. As long as Lu Yuan wanted to do something, she would support him without hesitation. This came from Zhu Zhuqing's stubbornness. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.